TikTok time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood. And kind of in an awkward spot here because on the one hand, it's like, okay, we've talked about Charlie a bunch over the past several days, covered a bunch of issues and so on. So, kind of said a lot of what needs to be said, but people keep talking. And so I wonder, okay, should I respond? Should I just, But some of it's actually messed up stuff, and some of it coming from important people. And so, I don't know. My inclination right now, we're only a few days after what happened, and my inclination right now is some of the stuff still needs to be responded to. And it's basically a lot of people trying to make sure that Charlie is remembered as a terrible, evil person and therefore shouldn't be mourned and things like that. And you guys have all seen videos by some of the complete lunatics. So just to be clear, you have lunatics with like weird colored hair, just screaming and ranting and so on, cackling like complete maniacs. But then you have people who are like tons of people have been getting fired. People in various universities, just regular schools and so on. People been getting fired for celebrating his death. But then you have people who they don't normally come across as people who would act like this, and yet they are. In other words, they don't normally come across as like evil scumbags, and yet they are in this case. And so that's interesting. But anyway, if someone just disagrees with Charlie Kirk's views and so on, there's not a lot to do about that. But if someone's just completely misrepresenting something and just lying and then using that to portray Charlie as this horrible, evil person, that's the sort of stuff I'll probably keep replying to that. Let's see, what is this? I pray David does not parrot a bunch of lies that he sees about Charlie. I'm seeing people that I respect repeat the lies, and it's making me heartbroken. I don't know, do I have a reputation as someone who repeats lies about Charlie? Let's see. We're seeing if there's anything we want to cover here at the beginning. As far as, there's a bunch of messages. Oh, people asking where AP is. Yeah. Igor points out AP is in England. Yeah, AP is actually doing a couple things over there. And he had a bunch of discussions and interviews and so on lined up. So I'm guessing he's getting a ton of awesome footage right now. And he wasn't just going to the UK. He's going, I don't know. I forget what he shared publicly. So I'm not going to share anything publicly. But yeah, AP's doing a bunch of stuff. Oh, matter of fact, we got a couple super chats. Someone just asked about AP. Let me go through these real quick. Just a couple. Though not technically theologically correct, Charlie Kirk is a martyr who died for his love of Jesus Christ and the Christian faith. Rest in peace. That's some of what people are challenging. So he's actually a terrible, terrible, terrible person. But we're going to check out some of that. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Amen. And this is the one about AP. How is AP doing with all this? He looked really bad. Yeah, AP is really upset. He got really excited when Charlie Kirk invited him to speak, and he thought it was really cool that they didn't tell him what to say. It was just, hey, you're an ex-Muslim. You've clearly thought deeply about some things, so you've got 12 minutes. And they didn't tell him, hey, don't talk about this. Hey, don't be mean about this. They just let him speak and so on. And AP really liked him. I've never met him, but AP really, really liked the guy, and as lots of other people have, and as seems like pretty much everyone who knew him. And that's the big difference in all of this. You've got all these people who don't know him and are going just based on some couple things they heard in some tweets or something like that, and they're condemning him as this horrible, evil person. And everyone around him that I've seen comment so far is like, this is one of the nicest, most loving guys, family guys. I've ever met in my life. And so it's this weird situation. But I guess my overall advice, ladies and gentlemen, is we don't want to be like Pakistan. And it's not just Pakistan, but Pakistan is like the main example that people have seen over the years of, so if you want to take someone down, you just start spreading something about how bad this person is. And in Pakistan, it's, oh, this person desecrated a Quran. Oh, there's this guy I don't like over here. Everyone, he just made fun of Muhammad. And they'll form a mob and actually kill a dude over people spreading false accusations about him. But I mean, we may be in that same situation now. We got more details coming out about the shooter and so on. We're not going to cover any of that today. And I don't know if I'll be covering it all anymore because other people can cover that sort of thing. If something interesting happens, we might go through it at some point. But again, we don't know exactly what the guy's thinking. We have some details, and they make it look like we have some understanding of what was going through his head, but all kinds of other information may come out and so on. And I generally don't trust stuff that comes out in the first 2 days after something like this, because it's inevitable that lots more information comes out later and so on and can change things. But we could actually be getting to a similar mindset as Pakistan, where if you want to take someone out, just start spreading accusations about how horrible and evil this person is, and someone will take care of him. Someone will take care of him. That's what it looks like we may be getting to, especially when you see how many people were celebrating. When you see that many people celebrating, it's like, oh, you guys actually want this. You want a place like Pakistan where I don't like someone, so let me just go say a bunch of stuff about him, and someone will take care of it. Pretty creepy. Take these super chats that just came out, and then we're going to jump into some stuff, guys. It's going to be good stuff. We got a good show. We're going to go through several of the main accusations of people who have claimed Charlie is this horrible, evil person and therefore needed to be stopped. And we'll actually take a look at the context of some of these things and see if people were representing him accurately. And some of you may have seen the celebrities, of course, that were accusing Charlie of various things. And it's interesting. You had Stephen King. So he was one of the big ones, but Stephen King actually apologized. And so that was actually good. And he apologized and said, wow, I shared information without checking. And he goes, I apologize. And so this is someone who actually shared information, said, nope, Charlie was a bad, evil person. And then the actual context was shown to him, and he apologized and said, wow, I shared it without really investigating. So the point is, even people who are attacking him, some of them who actually care enough to see if they're right, are looking into it and going, wow, I was wrong. But guess what? Notice he was completely willing to share something accusing Charlie of being a horrible, evil person. And he had we'll take a look at the Stephen King tweets, but he shared it. And guess what? This was his main example, because he was he was trying to show, nope, actually, dude is completely evil. He's an evil person. Look at this. So he had one example that he could give, and it was complete nonsense. It was complete nonsense, and he apologized. What's that mean? Well, you have, again, it's reminding me of Pakistan, where someone could just make something up and everyone will just share it real quick until a mob is formed, and then they take care of a person for you if you don't like a person. And now we're finding out, becoming kind of similar here. All right, we'll take these couple, and then we're going to jump into some stuff, guys. I promise you, unless something completely derails this, like a lightning strike or something like that. We got some interesting, good stuff to go through. Merck says, the more I look into Charlie, the more I like him. Yeah, and I've never really looked into him. I've said before, I've only seen a couple of clips. I wasn't paying attention to who he was until AP was like, hey, he invited me down to speak. But I've only ever, before this happened, I'd only ever seen a couple of clips by him. And so it's actually after he was shot that I started paying more attention to his stuff and so on. Thoughts on canceling? I've seen 9/11 dispatchers, firemen, and surgeons mocking Kirk and wondering if you're loving your neighbor in reporting them. Yes, I've already talked about this yesterday and probably the day before and so on. I'm generally not in favor of what's called cancel culture, but what's normally called cancel culture is like you said something that's completely unrelated and it basically hurts someone's feelings because they disagree with you, and so they complain about you until they get you canceled. And lots of it is like you'll say something that someone doesn't like, so they'll dig through your tweets and find something you said 10 years ago when you're 16 years old, and then they'll use that to get you fired from your job today and say, okay, that stuff's messed up. When someone is celebrating an assassination over that person's views and they think it's great, that's a different category. That's not, oh, you said something mean and hurt someone's feelings years ago. This is, you are the sort of person who approves of brutally murdering people over their views. That's actually relevant, right? That's relevant to an employer. That's relevant to your business. If you have people working for you who think it's good to slaughter people over their views, that's actually pretty relevant. And that should be up to you whether you want that person working for you or not. So that is the sort of thing. It would, and I mentioned this, I think, yesterday, but it would be like if you have a school and then you see someone, a teacher at a school posting stuff about being attracted to kids or something like that. It's like, oh, you don't want to engage in cancel culture and report it. No, you need to report someone like that because a person who's attracted to kids should not be working at a school. It's just go work somewhere else. Not trying to stop you from working or anything like that, but you need to not be around kids if you're attracted to kids, right? So anyway, the point is there are situations where, yes, it is entirely appropriate to report some terrible, terrible, terrible ideas and behavior from people. Hi, my family believes the narrative that Orthodox traditional Jewish folks spit on Christians. I know you've spoken out against that stereotype before. What should I tell them? Well, you can tell them, ask the people who are there. You can watch my video with Ron Cantor. That's on my channel. But I interviewed a Messianic Jew. So that's a Jew who is a Christian. And he's been preaching in Israel for the past 20 years. He says there's one radical sect that other people do not like. And they're the ones who would like spit in the direction of Christians and stuff like that. He says other people generally don't like them. He said they are a tiny fraction and so on, and other people think they're weird and so on. But you see the videos, and then people say, because this is just the rule with the Jews apparently, if you see one Jew doing something, a couple Jews doing something, you say this is how Jews are. This is the only group that we're supposed to do this with, but that's what happens. So yeah, I'd say get some videos of actual people there who respond to that sort of thing, because it's pretty much nonsense. And I've been there twice. I was wearing a cross the entire time, both times. Walking up, me and AP, we stayed in the old city of Jerusalem. No one so much as looked at us wrong. No one so much as looked at me wrong wearing a cross. I went to Michael Rappaport's bar mitzvah, which was right outside the Temple Mount, underground. And there were like 40 IDF soldiers there, and I'm standing there with a cross, and no one had a problem with it. But you have these people who believe if you go over there and you're a Christian, and people know you're a Christian, everyone's just going to be spitting on you. Yep, it's total nonsense. All right, we have a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm going to go through these super chats really quick, and only respond. I mean, only slow down if it's something really important. But we got a bunch of stuff to go through. Although them being fired tickles me, it is scary to have nihilistic, ill, and violent people have even less going for them. Yeah, that is a potential problem. So you've got this guy who thinks it's good to assassinate people for their views, and then you fire him. So yeah, there is that. But fortunately, most of them are cowards. Reminder, liars and slanderers will not inherit the kingdom of God. Lord bless you in your work, friendly neighborhood psychopath. That's what I am. Mosh says, a good friend asked me, was he that important? I told him his murder will change history and could be the thing that saves the Western world. This is looking really big. We'll see why here in a second. Andrew Wilson is going after people celebrating his death on their TikTok live streams for Charlie. If he starts, I'm going straight there. That's good. I went on a whole rant on the lies that is spewed Charlie Kirk and how more Gen Z kids think political violence is okay. I didn't know I was going to get so hyped. Yeah, well, I think a lot of us are in the same ballpark there. The people claiming that the avalanche of apostasy didn't happen and Charlie was bad praise an Al-Qaeda terrorist genociding Syria. Yeah. Yeah. No one's going to accuse people of being consistent. Hostate of Allah said that was on her live stream. Different topic. David, did you see Putin and we're not going to talk about anything else right now. Abu Bakr, did you see Putin and G talking about organ transplants? Two atheists talking about living to 150 years old, immortality. Yeah, that would be interesting. Just not right now. Have you seen the new leader of the Oxford Union talking about Charlie? Also, how is AP the one getting bigger and not our favorite psycho? As far as the Oxford Union, yeah, you had the new, I've seen conflicting informations but yeah, you had he was going to be the new president of the Oxford Union and he was celebrating Charlie's death. And then at first they were saying they're going to have him anyway. I saw other people saying that they made him step down, but I don't know. Do not quote me on any of that. But yeah, it was a messed up situation. It was a person that Charlie had debated. He had debated someone at the Oxford Union, and now you have the idea of the Oxford Union is you get together and discuss things in debates and so on. If it's come to, hey, disagree with us and you have to die, that's pretty crazy. If we're looking at someone who can likely replace Kirk, even though nobody truly can, maybe we want to look at someone who's cool and hip like Mike Winger. This is not a time for jokes. Not a time for jokes, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Diddy, do you know when AP is coming back? Sort of. I know he's going somewhere. He's going somewhere else. So I forget how long he's staying, but it'll be several more days. Hoping you can live stream about Xi Putin convert. Probably not. You have no reputation for lies. You are known for truth, but I have PTSD from some of the things I've seen lately. pretty bad stuff. D-Wood, AP has been on my mind and in prayers because I know how hard he takes these things. I don't know if this would be helpful, but I'm currently reading Dark Clouds, Deep Mercy, Discovering the Grace of Lament. Yeah, AP. Now, here's what's interesting. AP does, like when bad things happen, he would get like depressed and so on. But that was also while he was an atheist. So it will be interesting to see, like now that he's a Christian, now that he's a Christian, if he's going to respond to things differently. D. Wood, you never met Charlie Kirk, but you've met Milo. I've never met Milo. I know he's gotten into trouble, but back in the day, he was quite effective against evil. Milo was good at basically, I mean, it's kind of what Charlie did, right? Like Milo would show up to a college campus and just argue with everyone who wanted to step up to the mic and so on. But yeah, Milo was, but he got in trouble over his claims about men having relationships with teenage boys. Can a large group of people collectively become sociopaths? What has happened? What has to happen to someone for them to stoop so low? Are they all born like this? Aaron, you should check out my video. I forget what I called it, but it's about a concept in psychology called dissocial psychopathy or dissocial sociopathy. And the idea is that someone can come to behave like a psychopath or a sociopath. So just for people who draw a distinction, not everyone draws a distinction. Some people say they're just labels and they're not a distinction. For people who drew a distinction between a psychopath and a sociopath, again, there are other, like Jordan Peterson, he says there's no difference. For people who use those terms differently, it was thought that you're born a psychopath, you are messed up as a child and become a sociopath, right? But something happens to you very young and you become a sociopath. Again, there are other people who say they're just names for people who have antisocial personality disorder. But there was this concept. It was in the DSM-1. So that's a Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. In the first edition, there was something called dissocial psychopathy. And that was, you're not actually born a psychopath, but you join some sort of group where the behavior of a psychopath is encouraged and valued. It becomes adaptive. In other words, you will succeed in your group if you if you behave like a psychopath. So imagine a normal person with no mental problems or whatever joins the mafia. Well, or joins a gang or joins a terror cell. The behaviors that are normally associated with being a psychopath are actually valued in those groups. And so you can adapt the behaviors over time until you're kind of indistinguishable from an actual psychopath. You behave the same because that behavior is encouraged. And so what I think is going on here is you have a bunch of people who may have been normal kids and so on. They're not psychopaths, but they're part of a group where they all celebrate killing someone and so on. And so they're adopting the behaviors of psychopaths or sociopaths, whatever you want to call them. And I think that's what's going on. Please react to Jesse Lee Peterson versus Tovia Singer. I saw that pop up earlier. I did not have time to check it out, but I do think it's interesting. Did you see the South Koreans marching and chanting, "I am Charlie Kirk"? No, I heard about that, though. People supporting the death of Charlie Kirk are definitionally supporting terrorists. Yeah, and that's pretty stupid of them. I mean, seriously, if you're some purple-haired weirdo from, great, we killed the guy because we disagreed with him. Do you really want society to change to where people kill people they disagree with? Because I don't think you're gonna run that society. I don't think you're gonna last long. So you should be happy you have a society where even really stupid views are not something you get killed over. Because if you actually get the sort of society you say you want, where we just kill people who disagree with us, you're kind of like a weird fringe. You're not gonna be the group that controls everything. So dumb stuff. No guests today? No, we're just watching. We're going to watch some stuff and expose some stuff. Thank you for that. And last one here. It's genuinely worrying that many on the left genuinely believe Kirk is a fascist. How can we combat this idea in mass, considering how this narrative is spreading fast? Well, by doing what we're going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do what we're doing here. But everyone needs to do it because this will be kind of like there's a live stream. We'll be here for a while going through some of these issues. There needs to be shorts. There needs to be short stuff. So I would encourage other people to make like short videos responding to things. That's a lot of things like Charlie said this, he's so evil. Okay, play the clip in context to show people what he actually said and so on, or show him saying something. If they're saying, here's what he was, and you show a clip showing that he's the actual opposite of what they're saying, that's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen right now. And so, let me just find this. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some of this stuff. First, we'll have now famous quote from Charlie. He said, "You can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies. You can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies." I'm sure lots of you have seen how some people are reacting. See lots of people saying, "Hey, I just started reading the Bible for the first time." Seen lots of people saying that witnessing so much evil behavior from Charlie's critics and opponents is actually making them recoil against the evil. And they're like, "Hey, I'm reading the Bible now. I just went to church for the first time." Matter of fact, let's pull that up. This is one example. I've seen many. I've seen tons of these. These are going all over the place. I just screenshotted one. So this is American Barbie, who says, "I'm going to church tomorrow for the first time in forever. I'm taking a small group of people with me, some of whom have never been to church before, some who, like me, haven't been in many years. We will cry, pray, mourn, and praise God together, and it will all be because of Charlie Kirk." So if you're on X or some other platform, Facebook, I'm sure you've seen tons of examples of those. I've seen a bunch today of people saying, either people saying, "Hey, I'm going to church for the first time, or the first time in a long time," or, "My goodness, there were a bunch of new people in my church today." So I've been seeing a lot of that. But we also have different kinds of reactions. So this is the most recent one I saw. Okay, prepare yourselves. This is pretty insane. Here we go.
We're going to push it. We're going to see how far we can push it. I was not kidding when I said, if you were going to get the job done, there were two better candidates. And furthermore,
so she's saying, hey, you got one guy, but I've been pointing out there were two better ones, and not sure exactly who that is. She shut down her channel. People started sharing this clip about how insane she's sounding. And this was on her TikTok. And so she made her TikTok private. So I wasn't able to see if she's identifying who the two better candidates were, because that could be, the obvious would be like Trump and Vance, or Trump and Netanyahu, or Trump and Elon, or I don't know. But she's saying, hey, we got one, but we got to get these other two. And then watch what she says will happen.
Better candidates. And furthermore, when that happens, and it will, it will, not only will we be insensitive, that'll be the least of your worries. But it's gonna be the biggest fucking celebration, the biggest, most beautiful celebration on planet Earth. On planet Earth right now. The entire planet is gonna celebrate when he takes the turn. Finally.
Okay, so there you have someone delusional enough to think that the entire world agrees with her and whatever she wants to happen. There's a problem with being on social media and just being on, well, she's a TikToker, and I can guarantee anything she says, the people following her, if people are like deranged enough to follow her, are a bunch of people who think exactly like her and cheer her on for every insane thing she says. And you just start thinking, oh, everyone agrees with me. Why? Because everything I post, everyone says, oh, how great it is. Even if I'm cackling like the Wicked Witch of the, I forget which direction the Wicked Witch was from. I haven't seen Wizard of Oz since I was a kid. But yeah, they came from different directions. I forget which one was which. But anyway, you've got she's just cackling like the Wicked Witch. And, oh, once I get my way and other people have been assassinated, the entire world is going to celebrate. So that's what she thinks is going to happen. But anyway, got some really, really weird, creepy, insane people. So anyway, you got people who are reacting well. And as Konstantin Kisin pointed out, notice no one's running around burning places to the ground or burning cities to the ground and so on after Charlie's death. And you know why? You have basically two main forces at work here. You have a force that wants to preserve and restore and build, and you have a force that wants to destroy and replace with something else. And if your goal is to destroy and replace the current system with something else, then you look for any opportunity to try and destroy things. You want to destroy it all, bring it all to the ground. Why? Because you want to replace it with communism or socialism or Islam, something like that. If your goal is to preserve and restore and build and so on, then if you die for that cause, a lot of people will take that as inspiration. Okay, we have to focus more on preserving and building and restoring and so on. So that's what you see from fans of Charlie. And that's why you have the different kinds of reactions. But speaking of different kinds of reactions, let's check out our good friend Stephen King. So he's responding to Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters had said, Charlie Kirk was not a controversial or polarizing man. Charlie was a patriot. This is a turning point, and we all need to turn in the right direction. Rest in peace, my friend. So he says, rest in peace. Charlie was a patriot. And then Stephen King responded. He advocated stoning gays to death, just saying. So if you've been paying attention to people criticizing Charlie, you've probably seen that a bunch. We're actually going to take a closer look at what he actually said. But anyway, people called Stephen King on this and actually showed him what Charlie actually said. They showed Stephen King what Charlie actually said after he's circulating this. He advocated stoning gays to death, just saying. And this is interesting. Later, Stephen King says, I apologize for saying Charlie Kirk advocated stoning gays. What he actually demonstrated was how some people cherry pick biblical passages. That's what Charlie was actually doing in the clip. He was not saying, hey, let's go out and stone gays. He was saying, quit cherry picking to serve your agenda. And we'll be taking a look at that later on. And other people kept calling him out. I'd say Stephen King should be ashamed of himself, but what's the point? He says, I was wrong and I apologize. I have deleted the post. So he was, it was bad for spreading that about a guy who just died and so on. But he did apologize like a man, so that's good. Ted Cruz said, you're a horrible, evil, twisted liar. No, he did not. Your party, which you shamelessly shilled for, sent $100 billion to the, and that's cut off. But he said, Stephen King said, the horrible, evil, twisted liar apologizes. This is what I get for reading something on Twitter without fact checking. Won't happen again. I'm pretty sure it will happen again. It's hard to avoid. But he says, this is what I get. So he's saying, guess what? I deserve this criticism. That's fine. All right. You got some cool points for admitting you're wrong there, Stephen. Says, this is what I get for reading something on Twitter without fact checking. So he's taking it like a man and apologizing. That's good. And even said here, one of the AA, that's Alcoholics Anonymous principles, difficult to follow sometimes, but worthwhile, comes in step 10. When we are wrong, we promptly admitted it. When we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. So he's saying this is a principle of AA that you got to admit when you're wrong. And so apparently he's been through that program and is handling this well. He was wrong and apologized. So that's all good. But here's the rough part. You can see that's still spreading. That's still spreading. I think Rosie O'Donnell said it earlier today, but I still see this all over the place. And we're going to see it. We're going to see it from genetically modified skeptic. And that's interesting because this is one of the careful researchers, and he's skeptical. He doesn't share inaccurate information. He's a skeptic. Nothing gets into his mind. His mind is like Fort Knox, ladies and gentlemen. He's not going to share complete nonsense about someone. So we're going to take a look at what genetically modified skeptic said. But first, let me show you how I even knew that genetically modified skeptic said anything. Let's check this out. Inspiring Philosophy said it. So Mike Jones, Inspiring Philosophy. Check out what he says here. He says, Drew, that's genetically modified skeptic. I couldn't tell the difference between the various skeptics for years. I wasn't really watching their stuff. But cosmic skeptic, genetically modified skeptic, they're all rolled into one ball in my head, and I couldn't tell the difference between them. But now I can actually tell the difference. I've seen some cosmic skeptic videos over the years. I don't recall watching a genetically modified skeptic video, although I may have for a live stream or something like that, but nothing comes to mind. I can't think of anything he's ever said apart from the video we're about to check out. But he says, Drew posted this hours after Charlie Kirk was killed. When his blood still stained the ground, the tears still fresh on his wife's face, and the adrenaline still pumping in the veins of those who tried to save Charlie, this is what genetically modified skeptic was thinking. I waited a few days before responding, hoping Drew would delete it after he realized how stupid, unempathetic, and self-centered he was being. Apparently, I had too much faith in Drew, as it is still up at the moment of me posting this reply. And it's still up now as of when I checked it a little while ago. This is my message to Drew. Make no mistake, we will not forget what you said here, Drew. We will remember the next time you preach about stopping hate, the next time you say you are a better person without Christianity, the next time you claim you are working for the good of humanity. We will remember who you really are. If Charlie Kirk was right about anything, it is this. You can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies. It was only a few weeks ago that you made a video complaining about how mean and terrible Christians are because Sean McDowell tried to befriend you, network with you, and do more interviews with you. You interpreted it all as if he was just using you. Now, I mean, this is interesting. So I don't even know what this is about, but apparently Sean McDowell, it's Josh McDowell's son, but apparently Sean McDowell said, hey, we should have some discussions and make some videos together. And according to IP here, Drew interpreted this. They're all trying to use me. They're conspiring. Setting aside your very obvious and illogical overreaction, you said in the video that we Christians constantly frame atheists as things to be opposed rather than complex beings that, you can just talk to. Yet here you are treating a dead father as a thing to be used to promote your video. Yes, he did. You ranted for almost 40 minutes saying Christians should not use atheists for personal gain, that we use you because it benefits us, and that Christians create systemic harm. I hope you realize now how hypocritical you are. Within hours of Charlie being shot, you capitalized on it to promote your video, insulted his memory, and exposed how hateful you really are. At the end of that video, you called on atheists to aid in building a better world. Are you, Drew? How are you helping to build a better world with this post? I promise you this, Drew. If we ever meet in public again, I want to look you in the eyes and ask you if you were happy when you found out Charlie was murdered. I want to ask you how pleasurable it felt to make this post. I want to ask if you watched Erica Kirk's heartfelt address yesterday. And if you felt any regret. I don't care how much you roll your eyes when you hear it, but I do pray for you. And I pray you repent of this and come to Christ, because it is obvious you desperately need his forgiveness. May God have mercy on your soul. And here's the post. So this is right after Charlie was shot. Drew posted, today is a good day. This is the day Charlie was shot. He says, today is a good day to remember what a despicable fascist ghoul Charlie Kirk was. You can see him advocate for violence and bigotry in this video of mine. And he posts his video, Dark Enchantment. And we're going to go ahead and see most of the video, or like half the video, is him just talking about this dark enchantment concept and so on. But like the last half is him talking about Charlie Kirk. So we're going to go ahead and watch what he says about Charlie Kirk. About this genetically modified skeptic, Drew, he said, today is a good day to remember what a despicable fascist ghoul Charlie Kirk was. You can see him advocate for violence and bigotry in this video of mine. So Charlie is advocating for violence and bigotry. We're going to see him keep in mind, what's he saying here? Charlie was advocating for violence and bigotry in this video from Genetically Modified Skeptic. So as soon as Charlie died, Genetically Modified Skeptic said, I can actually use this to promote my video. All right. So we're actually going to check out some of this. We'll get these other super chats real quick, and then we will check out Genetically Modified Skeptic's video, and then we'll see a couple clips from Charlie, and then we'll watch one of Charlie's, someone who knew Charlie, responding to the accusations. And it's interesting because the guy who's responding and defending Charlie against charges of racism and homophobia and so on is a black gay man. That's the one who's saying, you guys are totally wrong about Charlie. So we're going to go ahead and check that out. Let's see. Take a couple of these. In light of people cheering for Charlie Kirk's death, how should we react when our enemies died. Is it okay for people back then rejoicing over Hitler, Goliath, Haman's death, and so on? It depends on the situation. Like, I mean, I said the other day, you can take the worst ISIS jihadi, and up to his dying breath, I'm hoping the best for him. But you people hear that, oh, you're hoping the best for. What's best for him is to turn away from terrorism, reject all those ideas, leave that ideology, turn himself in to face punishment for the horrible things he's done, and hopefully leave Islam and become a Christian and so on. I'm not saying, oh, I just hope you get away with it and I hope you have a fun, happy life despite of all the things you've done. No, that's not good for you. That's bad. But they're actually in a special category as far as like me and AP, more so AP, but I understand where he's coming from and so on. He would make fun of people like weeping over the deaths of terrorists and so on, and make fun of the obsession with these terrorists. There, I think it's acceptable and appropriate because you don't want terrorists to become examples of how to behave. You don't want them to be celebrated. You want them, oh yeah, this great guy, he was a terrorist, but he's the greatest person in the world, and let's all celebrate him. Some people need to be mocked because you don't want them to be taken as role models for a younger generation and so on. So it's kind of a different situation. So, but you'd have to be pretty bad. You have to be someone where it's like, okay, this guy has done so much freaking evil that anything else you want to point to that he's done that may be good if it weren't attached to him, the evil that this person has done so outweighs any possible good that you could mention of him that he absolutely should not be honored and celebrated and so on. So that'd be my view on that. Charlie was such a hateful bigot that my Orthodox Jewish synagogue said psalms and prayers in his memory yesterday on the Sabbath. Yeah, that proves it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I didn't know witches were real. Yeah, we've just proven that they are. That's just her audition tape for the role of Joker in the next Batman movie. Yeah, if they need a witch version of the Joker. Demon manifestation. Yeah, it is weird how these people seem so like sick and evil, and they think they're the correct ones. Is this the same lady that gave Snow White the apple? Could be. Left-wing violence is like a dial and right-wing violence is like a switch. The left is slowly getting more and more violent, and soon they'll go too far, and God help them. That lady's a weird comic book villain. She is pretty darn creepy. By the way, I'm seeing the same with my Jewish friends. Charlie inspired God on everybody, not just Christians. I haven't put on my tefillin since October 7th. Thanks, Charlie. Yep, lots of people around the world inspired by this. These people are sick. They can't function with normal people, and they would see us dead. Yeah, that is pretty creepy. That cackling crazy lady should have been in the Snow White remake as the Wicked Witch. Yeah, not super hot Gal Gadot. My prayer is that when I die, all of hell rejoices that I am out of the fight. C.S. Lewis. Yeah. She needs prayers, guys. Amen. Yeah, that lady definitely needs something. When did you first coming up with a long-term multi-year strategy against Islam, i.e. promoting Mojab, and are you still following or made big changes? When did I come up with big long-term multi-year strategies? Probably around 2007 or 2008. And almost everything has happened already. Almost everything has been happening. Deleting privated channel, coward move, crazy eyes. Yeah, she definitely has some crazy eyes. And yeah, it is interesting that people run their mouths and then people start responding. They'll go, ha ha, you can't stop me. And all of a sudden more people respond. They're like, uh-oh. And then they'll make their stuff private. Do y'all know which is more violent, left or right? I mean, that can vary from time to time and kind of different causes and so on. Right now, a lot of the violence we're seeing is from the left. And they tend to, because again, keep in mind, it's not like normal people who happen to be Democrats or something like this. It's like the far left, but they're the ones who are like encouraging people to like get violent and burn places to the ground and so on. Hi, David. I'm Polish Australian. I'm now Coptic. That's cool. That's interesting. Wait, Polish and you're Coptic now? Oh, That is interesting. Low IQ individuals who get dusted in every debate because they can't defend their positions, so have to resort to unaliving. Wicked. Yeah, it's not good. How would you diagnose Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment? He sounds similar to you and Tyler Robinson in being a highly intelligent psychopath. Also, before watching you and AP, C&P was how I learned that Muhammad was a false prophet and warlord. This book needs to be taught in more schools. Crime and Punishment was how I learned that Muhammad was a false prophet. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, he seemed narcissistic. Maybe psychopathic. But no, I mean, it did start to bother him over time, right? Keep in mind, I read that in high school. I read Crime and Punishment in high school. So you're talking 32, 33 years ago or something like that. And there are overlapping symptoms of antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. I'd have to check it out again. David, you're an example that good does not depend on feelings like empathy or sympathy. Thanks for that. Serious question. What was he saying about 1 in 5 women don't get raped? Can someone give me context? Not sure about that. In every atheist sits a little nihilist. It did with me. I'm really angry with a lot of the Christian YouTuber I watch. They seem to be obfuscating to a degree the reaction of the left and focus on calling out the right. It seems unbalanced and unfair. This is demonic influence. These people need Jesus. Definitely bad. Sean McDowell is one of the kindest people on the internet. Anyone who has a problem with him, the problem is on their end. Yeah. Can you imagine Sean McDowell thinking, hey, it'd be good to get... Instead of just Christians and atheists just constantly attacking each other, making fun of each other, let's just have good conversations and so on. And then Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptics, oh, they're trying to use me. I think that's Tucker's sister. Oh, they do have the same laugh, don't they? Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. She has Tucker Carlson's laugh. I heard how people were spreading conspiracy theories about Frank Turek, his mentor. How tragic. Yeah, I think the conspiracy theory about Frank Turek was based on not knowing who he was. It was just, he was close to him, and right before the shooting, he was messing around with his phone, and people saw him in the video, and they're like, hey, this guy may have been signaling, and they didn't realize that it's Frank Turek who has done shows with him and is friends with him. All right, everyone. So now we are going to check out a video from Genetically Modified Skeptic. And so again, in this video, the first half or so of the video, he's talking basically about why young people are attracted to whatever it may be, like the conservative movement or something like this. And you've got young people who are disillusioned and looking for meaning in life. And he's saying that conservatives or Republicans or whatever he was saying are basically using that. They're using that to take these young guys and basically point them in the direction they want to go for their own benefit and so on. But they're using issues these young people have, and they're veering them in a certain direction. But that direction is evil, according to Drew, Genetically Modified Skeptic. It's an evil direction. And so anyway, he's talking about that, and then he gets to the point about Charlie Kirk as like the prime example of someone who's doing this, because he's focusing on reaching young people a lot. And so that's got to be bad. So anyway, we're going to check out the section that's about Charlie Kirk. So here's where he starts on Charlie Kirk.
Few, if any, I'd argue, are more effective in and focused on delivering a sense of dark enchantment to young men than Charlie Kirk, who is arguably the most powerful, popular, and influential figure in Gen Z Christianity.
I'm Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, together the largest conservative grassroots organizations in the country.
He started Turning Point USA in 2012, and today it has over 800 chapters and over 250,000 members. It started as a political organization to mobilize young people on college campuses to vote Republican, But now it's marketing itself as a Christian ministry in actual churches.
That is interesting. So started off geared towards, I mean, here's the thing. It's Drew. I'm not familiar with the origins of Turning Point USA or what's been going on with it and so on. And so I would normally be inclined to just take Drew's word for it. But given what he says later, that I actually know he's wrong, it's hard to take any. Drew, you kind of ruin your credibility over time when you do stuff like this. But anyway, so we'll just go with him on that it starts off as trying to get young people to vote Republican or something like that, and is now basically a Christian ministry because they have this big emphasis on Christianity.
Kirk went on to forge a relationship with Pastor Rob McCoy, head of Godspeed Calvary Chapel of Thousand Oaks in California, and together they founded Turning Point Faith. The effort reaches out to pastors nationwide to encourage them to embrace political messages as a church growth strategy, an initiative that has doubled as an engine for turning out the pastors' congregations for conservative candidates. The political messages Kirk and his allies espouse have also come to include constant defense of Trump, as well as Christian nationalism. McCoy has spread falsehoods about the January 6, 2021 attack.
It is interesting that Drew is blasting this guy, not familiar who this guy is, but blasting this guy for spreading falsehoods when Drew is spreading some seriously messed up falsehoods and loving it. But what's this say? The political messages Kirk and his affiliates espouse have also come to include constant defense of Trump. Oh, is he just reading this stuff? Let me see.
Attack on the U.S. Capitol, for example, and has defended a member of his church sentenced to jail for his role in the insurrection. By the way, I have no relationship to Pastor McCoy here. I actually do have relationships to a few Pastor McCoys, but not this one. We might share a kind of cowboy-ass last name, but I don't know him. I don't condone him. Thanks.
Oh, so apparently his last name is McCoy. That's actually a cool cowboyish name. Just sucks that such a cool cowboy name was wasted on Drew here.
Just a brief look into Charlie Kirk's messaging to his primarily young male audience reveals an apocalyptic ideology obsessed with supposed evil.
Our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
The fact that people are out here with a different religion than me is what's causing all the problems. You, watching at home, cannot be free until everyone stops being different from me.
I'm sorry.
Drew just has no clue what he's talking about, right? So you can go all the way back. Go back to like Plato's Republic and so on. What were the criticisms of democracy? What were the criticisms of democracy back then? It was basically, it's just going to end up mob rule, right? It's just people are going to decide what they want, and they're going to be completely controlled by their desires, and they're going to just vote for whatever they want, and they're not going to make wise choices and so on. So it's kind of like a mob rule type of situation. Well, what if you had a population that was going on something more? So you bring in the idea of like, a constitution, hence constitutional republic and so on, and have voting for representatives. But basically the idea of the founding fathers was something along these lines. Yeah, if everyone just votes for whatever they want, you would get something like mob rule and so on. So they come up with a system of checks and balances. You've got a constitution guaranteeing rights that the government will not stop you from exercising and so on. But the main thing was, they pointed out, again, that the famous quote from John Adams is, "Our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It will not work for anyone else." They took it and by the way, you can go to a bunch of the other, you could just look up founding fathers and type the word virtue in, and a bunch of quotes from them will pop up. They agreed that you need something that is constantly being taught and reinforced and encouraged, that encourages people to behave virtuously, that they're going to handle these freedoms responsibly, And that if you don't do this, if they lose that framework and they just use these freedoms to do whatever they want, they said the system is going to break down. It's not going to last. It's not going to work. And so in theory, you could be a different part of the world and something else could be the basis for having that level of self-control that allows you to have freedoms and so on. It's just a matter of fact that in the US, it was a majority Christian population, and that was what they believed was going to help people behave virtuously. People are going to church. They're being taught in Christian schools. They're being taught Christian values. Guess what? You can give them all kinds of freedoms. You can give them all kinds of freedoms. And they warned, if you end up not handling these freedoms responsibly, if you end up ignoring virtue or loving vice, loving bad behavior, and you still have these freedoms, the system's going to break down. So what's Charlie pointing? He's pointing out exactly what the founding fathers would have said. Keep in mind, this isn't saying if you're not a Christian, you can't behave virtuously or something like that. It's like if you remove that, what else is there? What else is there to play that role for your society? Atheism? No, atheism doesn't, you could be the nicest person in the world and be an atheist. You could be terrible and be atheism doesn't tell you how you're supposed to behave. So that can't be a replacement. What replaces it? What replaces Christianity as this sort of foundation for society? And this is something that Francis Schaeffer talked about a bunch. It's basically you either people need to have these Christian values, or you're going to get a tyranny. The reason you're going to get a tyranny is if you do not have that emphasis on virtue because of a solid foundation, then people are going to go in every direction they want. They're going to do everything they're going to behave in whatever way they feel like. They're going to use their freedoms for evil, and those freedoms are going to have to be taken away because society is going to self-destruct. And before it just turns to anarchy, a tyrant's going to step in, and that tyrant is going to control your behavior. So the idea is you can either be controlled from within or you'll be controlled from without. If you do not have self-control, you still will be controlled. You will be controlled. It's just going to be a completely different form of government. So this is reality. This is just reality. This is how the system works. This is how the system was set up. And you've got genetically modified skeptic who, there was just a clip. I should have pulled it up, but it was it's on a different topic. But Ben Shapiro was just on Bill Maher's show. And Bill Maher's going, the Bible's evil, the Bible's evil. And Ben Shapiro responded. He says, how come you and I agree on like 87% of the things we talk about? Why do we agree? And Bill Maher, it's just common sense. And so, no. What? Tons of other people in the world would disagree with us. Why do we agree? And he's argued that we've basically been influenced by the same Bible. Just Bill Maher doesn't realize it, right? Bill Maher thinks he came up with these ideas on his own and stuff. And so Ben Shapiro pointed out, it's actually an awesome little clip. I should share it. I should make a little video out of it. But Ben Shapiro pointed out, he said, you act like you think you just hit a triple in baseball. You just hit a triple and you're on third base. You got to third base because you're awesome, because of your triple. He goes, no, you were born on, morally you're born on third base, meaning someone else did that for you. Someone else got you there. And he's pointing out that the impact that Christianity, and Ben Shapiro was talking about, he's a Jew and he's talking about Christianity. But he said basically Christianity has influenced everyone, including atheists, and now atheists don't even realize it. But that's kind of what Drew seems like. Like he was raised in a Christian family. He's raised in a society that's been massively influenced by Christianity. But it's like Dawkins, right? It's like Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and all these guys. You know, a couple decades ago, they sat around in their room going, we don't need this religion stuff. We're fine. We get along. We're not killing each other. So why is the rest of the world worse off than us? Oh, because religion. So if we just get rid of religion, then everyone will act like us. And they don't realize that the reason they're able to even be atheists in a society has a lot to do with the impact of Christianity. And Christian ideas and so on. So anyway, Drew apparently thinks this guy's spouting complete deranged nonsense, even though he's just telling you what the people who came up with the system said about it. We've got it. We've made a constitution. We've got a Bill of Rights. We've got a system here, and this system will work if people can have self-control, if people can be virtuous, if people are learning to behave like good people. If that stops, the system's going to break down. And Charlie Kirk apparently took these guys seriously. Genetically modified skeptic thinks he's just deranged.
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Black people are a threat to our safety because DEI is giving them power over us that they don't deserve. Never mind that DEI initiatives don't mean putting people without training on a dangerous job just because of their race. Adjusting your hiring practices and doing sensitivity training does not mean regular training just doesn't happen. Obviously, Kirk is using this as an excuse to just shit on non-white people.
Okay, so now you get, of course, that he's a racist. By the way, I actually have mixed feelings about the mixed views about, how do I put this? Well, one, I'm not sure if it's going to come up again, so I don't know if I should respond here or if he's going to keep making this point. But so, for example, the example that comes up a lot is like colleges. Like if you say, okay, we need a certain percentage of black students, and what if black students aren't getting the same, scores and so on that Asian kids that Asian kids are have. Well, if you have a certain percentage, then you're going to let people in who don't have the same test scores and so on. And so lots of people will condemn that. There is something that's correct about that, though, and I'll point it out. I used to teach at Kaplan Test Prep. Right. So while I was still in college, I taught at Kaplan Test Prep. So Kaplan's a place that basically teaches you how to take standardized tests. And so I taught the SAT. Because I got this is back when it was on a 1600 scale. It eventually changed to 2400, but I got like a 1510 or a 1530 or something like that. That was like 99th percentile. And so it was easy to get a job teaching other people how to do that. Now, here's the thing. If you go through a course at a place like Kaplan Test Prep, if you go through a course at something like Kaplan Test Prep, guess what? Your score is going to go up. Your SAT score, or whatever other standardized test you're taking, your score is going to go up because they would teach you all sorts of, one, if you go through there, they're going to teach you all the math that's you're going to be tested on. For the verbal section, they're going to teach you all the words that they bring up most, and you're going to memorize those with flashcards and stuff like that. So you're going to know all these words. But then they'll teach you all sorts of helpful tricks and so on that even if you don't know the answer, you can find it out. Like if you have a math equation, you have no idea how to solve this math equation. Well, guess what? You've got the answers right there below it. A, B, C, D. You've got the answers. If all else fails, plug one of those numbers in, see if it works. And go for one in the middle. And plug it in. And then if it doesn't work, then you might get a sense of what should be a higher number or a lower number. Okay, so now you've got the answers. The answers are right there. Worst case scenario, you try it 3 times. And then if none of those are correct, you already know the answer, right? So you have tricks like that. Also, if you're talking about the verbal section where you have to know what words mean, so you can do synonyms or antonyms or whatever. Lots of times you don't know what a word means, but you might get does a word feel positive or negative? Does it seem like it's a positive word or a negative word? If it's a positive word, then if you're looking for an antonym, you should, okay, which one of these looks like a negative word? So anyway, there's all kinds of strategies like that. But guess what? Your score is going to go up. If you go through this class and you actually do the assignments, your score on your SAT is going to go up 200 to 400 points. Right? So I used to teach this. All of my students were white or Asian. All of my students in those classes were white or Asian. Why is that relevant? Well, because those classes are expensive. So if your parents have a big pile of money sitting around to send you to one of these classes, your score on your SAT is going to go up 200 to 400 points. And so your student, your child, turns in his test scores for the SAT, and he's got scores that are way higher than lots of other people. Why? Because parents had money to send him to a class and learn these things. Well, guess what? That's not bad. That's good. If you're a parent, you have the money to do that and so on. So anyway, the point here is that doesn't necessarily tell you that that is the best student for your school, right? That test score. In other words, if you had this student right here, and this student got a 1,500 on the SAT, and you have this other student, and this other student got a 1,300, you'd be inclined to think, okay, the student with the 1,500 is just way smarter, and maybe that student's mom just had more money, and so sent the kid to class, and so sent the kid to the school, and that's how the kid got the higher score. So it's not actually a better student. It's not actually going to perform better necessarily at your school. So if you can figure out how to deal with that, if you can figure out how to deal with things like that, like, oh, here's a student who doesn't have as high a score, but that doesn't tell us he's not as good a student because maybe the other one had advantages or something like that. If you could figure out a system like that to deal with those kinds of things, yeah, I think you should go with, the best students and so on. So I think that's built into some people's minds where, okay, maybe this black student that we're getting just didn't have some of these advantages and so on. And so we're going to compensate. We're going to compensate by that. Anyway, if you could do something like that, that's meant to take into account what, some advantages that some people have had, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't know how you would actually make that work. It's like you can't say, give me information on everything that's ever happened. Did your mom have money to hire a tutor for you? Did your mom have money to do this or something like that? Seems like it'd be possible to actually work out something like that. But anyway, so that's with like schools and things like that. If you're saying that when one of these airlines, as we've seen repeatedly, when an airline says, you know what, we're going to hire 50% minorities or something like that. That's kind of a weird policy, right? Yeah, you're still going to have to go through training and so on. But if you're saying that the requirement is not who the best pilots are, the requirement is first, like what race or what gender you are, something like that. Guess what? You could. It's not crazy to think that maybe you're not getting the absolute best people. If the person from some minority were the best person, then the person's going to get hired. That person's going to get hired anyway. So why do you need to make the requirement? You need to be a minority or something like this to apply for this job. If he was already the best person for the job, you wouldn't need that extra requirement. So anyway, as far as DEI stuff, I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt here. Again, there are certain circumstances where I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I don't think that Charlie Kirk is necessarily some evil person for saying, if you got a bunch of people's lives in your hands, then the only requirement should be you are the best pilot for the job. It shouldn't be anything, gender or where you're from or anything else or what your race is. That should not play into it. And if you say all these other things are going to play into it, that makes me trust the pilot less. Whereas, keep in mind, he's saying if you have these DEI policies for hiring for your airline, then if I see a black pilot, he's saying, then I'm going to think, well, did you hire him just for your DEI policy? If you didn't have the DEI policy and you saw a black pilot, well, you have no reason not to trust that black pilot, right? If you didn't have the policy, say, okay, this guy's a pilot. These guys hire the best pilots, and guess what? This black guy or this woman or whoever, they're the best pilots because they're the ones who got the job. If all of a sudden you start saying, no, we need more women, and so we're going to hire more women and stuff, then it's, I don't know, it becomes weird. I'd put it this way. I don't think that makes you a racist or a misogynist to say, if you make policies favoring other things besides being a good pilot or a good doctor or something like that, don't think it means you're anti some group if you say, don't hire people that are extremely skilled positions where they have other people's lives in their hands based on something other than them being really good at what they're doing. Don't think that makes you a racist. Don't think that makes you a racist. But it does, according to genetically modified skeptic here.
This historic event will likely be one of the largest and most consequential in American history. The team at Trump Students and Turning Point Action are honored to help make this happen, sending 80-plus buses full of patriots to D.C. to fight for this president. Check out the date on this one. Yeah, Charlie Kirk deleted this tweet later, but it doesn't change the fact that he propagated the lie that the 2020 election was stolen by some imaginary evil and helped rile people up into an insurrection.
Joining us now is Steve Salier, who I find to be incredibly interesting and one of the most talented noticers in the country. Steve, welcome to the program. We like to say on the
This is interesting. I had not heard of a noticer beforehand, but you guys familiar with this? Someone who's a noticer? Drew explains what noticer is, and I looked it up, and I got something very different. But let's let him explain it.
show that people committed the crime of noticing. You obviously started to, you popularized that, meaning using their brains and using pattern recognition. You might be one of the most talented noticers on the planet. What are some of the things that you noticed long before the national media did, and how have you been treated as a result?
So this is a noticer, and he notices things before the media notice them. Okay, that's what a noticer is, and we'll let GMS explain what a noticer is here in a second.
For those unaware, the term noticer is a term that anti-Semites use for themselves. A noticer is an anti-Semite who notices supposed coincidences of an imagined international Jewish conspiracy. Steve Salier is a...
Did you catch that? Noticer is a term for anti-Semites. So Charlie Kirk, is that how Charlie's using it? Is that how this other guy's using it? Like it's a code. We're noticing all the Jewish conspiracies. So I just looked it up. I looked up noticer. I got a very different result. So here it says, a noticer is a person who carefully observes and notices details that others might overlook, characterized by their keen awareness and attention to their surroundings. The term can also refer to someone who formally gives notice or attention to something and has been used in context promoting positivity and appreciation by consciously looking for the good in people and situations. Nothing here about this being anti-Semitic. So I just have to know, if a guy says, hey, here's a noticer, you're going to say, aha, that's a code word for basically being a Nazi. I'm looking at it and I'm seeing a completely different definition of noticer here. So the question would be how Drew is assuming that Charlie Kirk, one of these massive conspiracy, like Candace Owens type conspiracy theorists that Jews are behind everything. Oh, wait a minute. No. Oh, I got the clip. Let's go. I forgot I had the clip. Let me find this. Hang on. We saw this the other day. Where is it? Here we go. I'm going to cut to this one, then we'll come back to this. But according to Drew here, noticer is someone who's noticing all the Jewish conspiracies and so on. Here's Charlie responding to people who see Jewish conspiracies everywhere.
Thank you for coming, Charlie. And I had a quick question about anti-Semitism online. Another question here they asked about Candace Owens. And, I'm a big fan of you. I was a big fan of her. But she's obviously been going down this anti-Semitic bent. And through her, I'm kind of finding out about these other characters online, like Nick, for instance. I'm sure you've heard of him. And these people, they've been active for a long time. And it seems like they've just been ignored, which is working. But now they're kind of surging in popularity. And as someone who I enjoy watching your debates, are they people you'd be willing to engage with and maybe shut them down in a way through a debate or something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll get debate.
So, guys, you can see the yarmulke there. This is a Jewish man asking, what about Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens and Charlie? Would you be interested in debating them? Because they're saying some messed up stuff. But what do you think about people who think Jews are behind everything? As Drew, genetically modified skeptic, also just accused Charlie of.
Candace. But no, look, I'll debate anybody that shows up at our campus events first and foremost, but I do want to take what you say and extrapolate that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems. Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell, and it should not be tolerated. Period. But it goes to a structural problem of an entire generation that has economic resentment. They don't own anything. They're not getting married. They're not having children. They're depressed. They're anxious. They're staring at their screens all day long. And if all of a sudden your extrapolation of all that is, well, it's the Jews' fault, that is sloppy and shallow thinking. And not only that, they say, oh, it's the Jews' fault. Okay, let's kind of play this out. Well, tuberculosis, that used to kill about 1 billion people. You know, it's a group of Jewish scientists that came up with the antibiotic that cured tuberculosis. How about CPR, the MRI machine? You know, there's over 500 million lives that were saved over the last 50 years because of people that were Jewish scientists that were working on things. They'll never say thank you to the Jews, but they'll always say shame on the Jews. It's weird how that works. And finally, they always blame the Jews for stuff. Jewish people are an ethnicity. So therefore, definitionally, you have people that are secular, orthodox, religious, that are all over the spectrum. You're trying to blame an entire ethnicity for a singular problem. Hold on, let's take a step back here. Instead of that, what could you possibly do in your own personal life to improve your own state of being?
In other words, instead of sitting around blaming everyone else, especially the Jews, because that's the popular thing now, instead of blaming Jews for everything you don't like about yourself and about the world, how about focusing on becoming a better person and actually doing something? Wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be psychologically better?
If you are blaming 0.02% of the world's population for all of your problems, that is not going to be good for your soul. It's not good for your psychology. It's not good for your future in any way, shape, or form. And so I would just say this, that any young person that goes into this hyper online brain rot, you are serving yourself over to your own demise. You are serving yourself into a suicide mission that will not make you happier and not make you healthier. Instead, here's what your attitude should be. Your attitude should be like, I can't own stuff, I got it, can't own a home, I'm not getting married, I don't know who to date. You said, wow, the challenges are immense. I'm going to now overcome all those challenges and go on an adventure. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm now not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor. I'm going to dig deep. This is still a great country. This is a free country. I'm going to use my agency. I'm going to use my ability. And I'm not just going to go point in the corner and be like, I'm overweight because of the Jews. Women don't want to date me because of the Jews. How about this? As Jordan Peterson would say, sit up straight with your shoulders back. Follow the rules for life, make yourself interesting, learn something new every single day, and instead of pointing at a small group of people and engaging in this brain rot, become a better person. You'll be a happier and healthier, more joyful and productive person.
So there's a couple different directions that can go as far as if you. We talked about this. What was it? Yesterday or the day before? Internal versus external locus of control. Locus of control is where you believe primary responsibility for your situation in life is, right? And if you have an internal locus of control, then it's you believe you're primarily responsible for how happy you are, how successful you are, all these things. You believe that or if things are bad, that you also believe that you are primarily responsible for the bad things, right? If you have an external locus of control, you think that forces outside of you have the control over your happiness and your economic status, all sorts of things, right? Having an internal locus of control is massively better for you. Notice he kept emphasizing, this is bad for you. This is destroying your soul. What? If you have an external locus of control and you blame you blame someone else or some group for all your problems, that's bad for you. Why? If you have these borderline omnipotent people, that's how people like Candace Owens and all these treat like the Jews. They're like borderline omnipotent. They're controlling everything. Anything that goes wrong, they're part of it, so on. If you believe there are these extremely powerful people out there controlling everything, well, I mean, who are you to even struggle against it? You're helpless. You're helpless. It paralyzes you. That sort of mentality paralyzes you. Which is why people like Candace Owens want to keep you in that place. Because if you really can't stop this powerful group out there that's controlling everything, who do you need? You need your favorite influencer to do it for you, to expose them. And so that keeps you loyal to the influencer and so on. That's really bad for you. And something that I've never been blaming some group for controlling, ruining my life or something like this. I ruined my life on my own. It would have been very easy when I got out of prison to say, I'm just screwed. Here I am. I'm 24 years old, ex-con, violent felony. How do I get a job? How do I get a job somewhere? That you go and apply for a job, and it says, you ever been convicted of a felony? If so, please explain. Kind of rough thing to explain. So it would have been very easy to just say, well, I'm kind of doomed. Yeah, I'll be able to find a job and stuff, but I'm an ex-mental patient. I'm an ex-violent con. I spent years in prison and a couple of mental hospitals, and this is just the system. The system is not going to work. This system is not going to work. No one's going to hire me. No one's going to trust me. Nothing's ever going to work out. That's not the mindset I had. That's not the mindset I had. It's, yeah, I screwed up. I'm gonna work my behind off because I understand there's a lot against me. That's my fault. That was my fault. It's not anyone else's fault. It was my fault that I was in that situation. And if I'm gonna get out of the situation, if I'm gonna overcome the obstacles, that's got to come through hard work. And so what happened? I worked my behind off. That's what I did. So. Yeah, guess what, guys? There are people who just have all kinds of advantages. There are people who everything is handed to them and so on. And there are other people who are just born poor and somewhere. Okay, yeah, there can be disadvantages. You can have disadvantages in life. Why look at them as, oh, poor me, I'm disadvantaged, therefore I'm screwed? That's okay. I got more obstacles to overcome. And I'm going to overcome them. That's what I'm going to do. So that's Charlie Kirk responding to people who sit around blaming Jews for everything. But according to our good friend Drew over at Genetically Modified Skeptic, when Charlie is talking about having a noticer with him, it's a person who notices all the Jewish conspiracies that are going on and so on. Even though noticer is just someone who notices things that other people miss, according to the definition I looked up. But
few, if any, I'd argue, are more effective.
Let me fast forward here to where we were. And all right.
Steve Saylor is a proponent of the white supremacist pseudoscience of racialism, also called race science, and a propagator of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. Noticing is what he calls his work arguing for that absolute paranoid racist bullshit, of which Charlie Kirk is a big supporter. As this article in The Atlantic says, race science is hardly a new idea. During Jim Crow, the idea was used as justification for sterilizing black people. In Nazi Germany, the veneer of science and biology was used as a pretense for genocide. Kirk doesn't hide these views of his either. He's produced entire episodes of his show with titles.
You getting that, everyone? So the guy's a noticer, so
like, Great Replacement is not a theory, it's a reality. Okay, last clip because I'm sure you're getting the picture.
So you love God. So you must love his law. How do you love somebody?
Here we go, folks.
Guys, this is a big one. This is the main one I hear. And that's the one we saw from Stephen King. That Charlie is in favor of stoning gays. He's in favor of stoning gays. So this is this may be the most common thing I've seen. But let's go ahead and let Genetically Modified Skeptic explain it, and then we'll actually take a look at what Charlie really said.
Because I'm sure you're getting the picture.
So you love God. So you must love his law. How do you love somebody?
Here we go, folks.
You love them by telling them the truth, not by confirming or affirming their sin. And it says, by the way, Miss Rachel, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours. in a lesser referenced part of the same part of Scripture is in Leviticus 18, is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying. So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters.
If you weren't yet convinced that Kirk believes in and advocates for violence against minorities, then this should change that.
Did you catch that, guys? He said that was Charlie Kirk advocating for violence against minorities. He just said that. So in his post where he says he was going to prove that Charlie Kirk is actually promoting violence, that was the example he gave. That's the example of Charlie Kirk advocating for violence against minorities. And this is supposedly our hero who's giving us all this great information. Let's go ahead and watch more.
His idea of loving your neighbor as yourself in this case is literally killing them.
All right, guys. So that's what I wanted to focus on. Charlie's idea of loving your neighbor is killing them. It's killing them. So this is Drew, genetically modified skeptic, saying that this was Charlie Kirk advocating killing gay people. And guess what? So you had Stephen King, who also shared this. He advocated stoning gays to death, just saying. And then a little later, when people showed him what Charlie actually said, suddenly, I apologize for saying Kirk advocated stoning gays. What he actually demonstrated was how some people cherry pick biblical passages. And again, I was wrong, and I apologize. I've deleted the post. Well, what did Stephen King see? What did Stephen King see that our good atheist skeptical friend just still hasn't seen? He just still hasn't seen. He's still got his video up saying that Charlie advocates violence against gays. He advocates stoning them to death. Well, let's go ahead and check out the actual clip. So in the actual clip, you had a woman on a children's show telling Christians that they should celebrate Pride Month. And to show that children should celebrate Pride Month, she said, well, we quote the perfect law of God, which says, love your neighbor. And loving your neighbor includes gay people. And therefore, you have in Leviticus a command to love them. How do you love them? By showing your support for them and affirming the things they do and so on. And therefore, it's loving. If you want to obey Leviticus, then you should celebrate Pride Month. And Charlie pointed out the obvious. If you're going to quote Leviticus to defend your position, you can't leave out other things that Leviticus says. And if you're saying, hey, this is the law of God and it says love your neighbor, therefore you have to do this, okay, you might want to read other things that Leviticus says if you're just going to make the point. The point is, don't go there, cherry pick something, ignore everything else it says, and then say that therefore Christian kids should be celebrating Pride Month. So let's go ahead and check out the actual clip here.
That's who I am. And the love back and the God bless if you disagree is genuine.
Andrew?
So that was the end of her explaining why Christian kids should be celebrating Pride Month. And it was Leviticus says, love your neighbor.
I would just, to Jack's point, I'm dying to know, like, what do you think when Miss Rachel quotes scripture in that way?
I mean, Satan's quoted scripture plenty.
It doesn't just say love your neighbor, though. It does say love your neighbor, except in a sense.
As yourself, but hold on. She's not totally wrong when she says, first of all, the first part is Deuteronomy 6:3-5. The second part is Leviticus 19. So you love God. So you must love his law. How do you love somebody?
Here we go, folks.
So her reasoning was, you got to love God. You got to love God. And if you love God, you have to love his law. And if you love his law, his perfect law, then you have to obey when it says love your neighbor. And therefore, you need to celebrate Pride Month. Because your neighbors are gay, right? All right.
Love them by telling them the truth, not by confirming or affirming their sin. And it says, by the way, Miss Rachel, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours. In a lesser referenced part of the same part of Scripture is in Leviticus 18, is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying. So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters. Now, so how do you best love somebody? You love them by telling the truth. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to be...
Are you hearing what happened right after genetically modified skeptic cut the clip? He's saying you don't need to be cruel. You don't need to be mean. What's he talking about? Is he talking about stoning people to death? Because it seems pretty cruel. He's talking about talking to them. He's talking about talking to them. He's saying, hey, don't cherry pick. It's so simple. He's saying don't cherry pick something out of Leviticus and ignore other things in Leviticus, right? So don't say there because Leviticus says this, therefore we have to affirm this as acceptable. God clearly shows it wasn't acceptable. He's talking about communicating to people and telling them the truth. So let me back up a little. Again, this is right after genetically modified skeptic cut the clip.
Cruel. You don't have to be unchristlike in your communication.
Yeah, you don't have to be mean.
However,
shout.
You certainly, and I would love for Miss Rachel to respond to this, is pride a Christian value? She thinks it is. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Is being proud something that we should... No, it's in fact, the scriptures tell us the opposite. Pride goeth before the fall. That pride is something we need to try to reduce in our life, to increase humility and increase piety.
There is one
and
list that
obedience. Say that?
I said there is one list that pride's on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, the Bible says have a sober view of yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it also says in Matthew 18:6 through 4, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble.
Yeah, and so it's very simple. So how do you...
Yeah. Don't cause kids to stumble. Be careful. Be careful with how you train kids, because if you're causing them to stumble, you're in quite a bit of trouble. So the point is, if you just go to the Bible and say, here's something I want to support and promote, let me go ahead and rip something completely out of context. Keep in mind, guys, we are not under the law of the Mosaic covenant. That's not the law we are under. You have a series of covenants in the Bible. Like there's a covenant with, God makes a covenant with Abraham. God makes a covenant with Moses and the children of Israel. And then we're told that a new covenant is coming. New covenant. It's going to be the blood of Jesus Christ, right? And so if you talk about the penalties in Leviticus and so on, we're not under those. We don't apply those penalties. Why? We're not part of that covenant. As far as what God is saying is right and wrong and so on, okay, he's affirming that it's wrong. So if you want to say it's fine, it's great, don't quote the chapter where God says it's wrong, right? Don't quote that chapter. If you do and you quote it and you make it look like it's saying something that it's not saying, you're cherry picking. And that's why Stephen King said once he actually saw the clip, he was making a point about not cherry picking. He's not saying stone gays to death.
Love somebody. You love them so much to correct their error.
Yeah.
And so let's just, take the
them?
pride conversation out because people think it's an identification, which it's not. It's just sexual behavior. But it's, if you meet an alcoholic or you meet a drug addict, do you affirm their struggle? No. You say, you're better than this. Let's get you free from that. Let's get you free from that activity. So Miss Rachel, you're actually not loving anybody. You're doing the opposite.
She loves money, I bet.
She's making a lot of money, and she wants the YouTube.
Did you catch that? Charlie said if he believes you're doing something wrong, he's going to try and say, hey, you should be better than this. I'm going to try and help you get out of this. Was he advocating stoning people to death? No. According to Drew, genetically modified skeptic, he was. Notice he did not play the rest of the clip. Why? Because anyone, even his idiotic fans, would have looked at that and gone, it doesn't sound like what he's saying, dude. So you have to cut it. You have to cut it right where you need it. And guess what, guys? He said in his post that Charlie's evil because he promotes violence. His only example that I recall, that was the only example of Charlie advocating violence against a minority, right? So, guys, this isn't just blue-haired weird ladies screaming this stuff on TikTok. This is these are experienced content creators on YouTube, and they're doing the exact same thing. Pretty weird. All right, guys. So let's check out one more clip along these lines, because Charlie, at an event, Q&A, someone actually steps up and asks him why he's allowing gay people to be part of the conservative movement and so on. Tell me if this is what you'd expect. Tell me if this is how you would expect Charlie to respond if you believed genetically modified skeptic. Matter of fact, beforehand, let me just pull that up one more time. Here's what he said. So, genetically modified skeptic. Today is a good day to remember. This is the day that Charlie Kirk was shot. Today is a good day to remember what a despicable fascist ghoul Charlie Kirk was. You can see him advocate for violence and bigotry in this video of mine. And the example of Charlie Kirk advocating for violence, as far as his bigotry, that was because he said he had a guy on there who's a noticer, and a noticer means you're a fan of Jewish conspiracies and stuff like that. We already saw how Charlie responded to, what about people who think Jews are behind everything that's going wrong? He responded to that. He had a lot of contempt for that and thought those people need help and need a better psychological mindset. But according to Drew, genetically modified skeptic, Charlie advocated stoning gays. Obviously, when someone shows up and starts complaining about gays, Charlie's going to be right on board and is going to say, yeah, let's get them. Let's get rid of all these guys. Right? Right, everyone? Let's see what he actually says here.
Hey, Mr. Kirk, thanks for coming out tonight. I got a question for you real quick. Up until about 5 years ago when gay marriage was legalized nationwide, the conservative movement has been explicitly pro-traditional family. Now, both you and your organization advocate for the acceptance of anti-Christian, immoral lifestyles like homosexuality and transsexuality, going as far to invite drag queens like Lady MAGA to your events. It seems to me and anyone who's paying attention that conservatives just believe whatever liberals believed 5 years ago. Right now, there's a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and... Oh, excuse me. Phone shut off.
Go back to your notes. That's probably where you saved it. You got to...
That was actually funny. The kid lost what he was saying, or his phone shut off because he's reading it. Charlie says, go back to your notes.
You got to like push double tap and then go over.
Right now, there is a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and rebranding pedophiles as minor attracted persons. 5 years from now, will you be promoting child drag queen shows? Will child abuse become part of the conservative platform?
And guess what? You had some people clapping for that, right? So some people are like, hey, he's right. So what was the criticism? It's you have gay people at your events. You guys have gay people at your events. And so, if back in the day, conservatives would have been against that sort of thing, and now you're accepting it, what are you going to accept next? What are you going to accept 5 years from now? You're going to be accepting a drag queen story hour there? Huh? So that's what Charlie is challenged on. And again, you had some clapping for the guy who raised this issue. Let's see how Charlie handles this.
Boy, that's a slippery slope fallacy if I've ever seen one. First of all, I've never invited a drag queen to come to any Turning Point USA event. I was at Politicon, and an individual by the name of Lady MAGA came.
Okay, so he says this wasn't his event. It wasn't Turning Point. As far as a trans... I forgot. Lady MAGA, I don't know what Lady MAGA is. But he says this was at Politicon. This is not Turning Point. Anyway. Oh, drag queen. Okay.
I was at Politicon, and an individual by the name of Lady MAGA came up, and I took a picture, and she walked away. Secondly, let me ask you a question. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, sir.
So are you a proud Trump supporter?
Of course.
So are you sickened that he had a gay man speak at his convention?
Yes.
Then you're not a Trump supporter, my friend. Thank you very much.
It is easy to miss how brilliant that was right there. I'm hoping he explains it. Because I don't remember what he says, but there's more to this clip. But just to make sure you understand what just happened, right? So the guy's saying, basically, Charlie's saying, hey, if you have conservative views on, guess what? Conservatives, they have views on a bunch of different things, economy, all kinds of things, right? If you are a conservative on all these things, then just because you disagree with me on one thing does not mean you're not a conservative in all these other ways, or that I shouldn't work with you or something like that. But that's what that guy was saying, right? It's like, hey, you've got gay people showing up to your conservative event. So someone like Dave Rubin, right? He's gay, he's married to a man, but if you look at his views, he's conservative. So should someone like Dave Rubin be allowed at conservative events? Well, he's conservative. But he's gay too. He's gay. So should he not be allowed? And so what did Charlie do? He asked the kid, well, I'll go ahead and replay it. He asked the kid, hey, you support Donald Trump? The kid's like, yeah, I support Donald Trump. He's like, does it bother you that he had a gay person speak? Yeah, it bothers me. And you're still a Trump supporter? Yeah, I'm a Trump supporter. You're not a Trump supporter. Why? Because according to this guy, you're either totally on the same page or you're a separate group. That's what he's saying, right? He's like, hey, you can't be a conservative in all these ways, but disagree with us on this one thing. If so, you need to be expelled. You can't be part of it. And Charlie Kirk saying, well, then you're not a Trump supporter because you disagree with Trump on something. And according to you, you can agree on 99% of things, but if you disagree on this one thing, then you're out. You're out. Well, following that reasoning, if this guy disagrees with something Trump did, then he should not be allowed to call himself a Trump supporter. So he basically just flipped it on the kid instantly. This is your reasoning. It's you agree with us on everything or you're out. Well, fine. You don't agree with Trump on everything, therefore you're out. So anyway, let me back that up a little bit because that was pretty quick.
And an individual by the name of Lady MAGA came up and I took a picture and she walked away. Secondly, let me ask you a question. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, sir.
So are you a proud Trump supporter?
Of course.
So are you sickened that he had a gay man speak at his convention?
Yes.
Then you're not a Trump supporter, my friend. Thank you very much. Let me ask you another question.
You got people booing because this guy does have some people on his side.
Question. Should he return the money of Peter Thiel, an openly gay man who supports his campaign?
No, if it helps him strategically,
okay.
Sure he can.
Should he stop talking to Tammy Bruce, who's an open lesbian that's a Fox News contributor?
If it's affecting his ideas, then probably, yeah.
Okay, so you say you're a Trump supporter, yet you have all these issues and these disagreements with him. Let me be very clear about my position. My personal position. I'm a Christian first and foremost, then an American, then a constitutionalist, then a conservative, in that order. I believe marriage, biblically, if we want to have a biblical and theological discussion, as articulated in the greatest book ever to exist in the history of the world, the Holy Bible. Marriage in the Holy Bible is one man, one woman. I also do not believe in the sort of rhetoric that some people engage in, that all of a sudden that they say there's no place for gay people in the conservative movement. I do not believe that.
No room for, he says he doesn't believe that there's no room for gay people in the conservative movement. According to genetically modified skeptic, he wants to execute them. He's saying, yeah, join our group. Drew's saying, no, he wants to kill them all. I'm confused now.
And let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question then?
Sure, go for it.
So, the American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans, that's what we're conserving.
Saying, what are you conserving if it's not this one thing?
I'll get to you later, though. Don't worry. So let me ask you a question. What if you had your way? What would you do with gay people in America?
What would I do with them?
Because they're not allowed in the conservative movement. So would you just kick them out anytime they show up at a Republican Party? If you were in charge, like what would you say? You can't be part of the Republican Party.
If somebody is advocating for being openly homosexual, yeah, they should not be part of the conservative movement.
Again, guys, you got people cheering.
So I just want to go through the list. Guy Benson, no place in the conservative movement. Dave Rubin, no place in the conservative movement. Peter Thiel, no place in the conservative movement. So that just to go down the list.
If they are if they're supporting open homosexuality.
So
yeah, no
I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd? And
it is against God. That is
so.
why.
Let me ask
Are you
a
a
question.
Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No. Do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
All right, whether you agree or disagree with what Charlie Kirk just said, you may agree with the guy who was asking the question. Not the point. Does Charlie Kirk sound like he supports stoning gay people to death? Doesn't sound like that at all, but that's what Drew, genetically modified skeptic, says. That's what lots of people are saying, that he supports stoning gays to death. And this is why he's actually promoting violence against a minority, and this is why he's evil and should not be remembered as someone good. Wild stuff. So again, as far as I recall, that is the first genetically modified skeptic video. Again, I may have seen something I don't remember. But Drew, you're already in the category of I can't take you seriously unless I look up what you're saying, because you're like, this is what a noticer is, and I look up noticer, and it's not what a noticer is. He's saying stone the gays to death. You look up what he's saying. It's not what he's saying in context, and he obviously doesn't believe that, and you're using that to trash the man. So, if you say something I already know is true, well, I guess I would think, okay, I already know this is true. If you say something and I haven't looked into it, there's no situation where I could trust you, because you don't seem to be careful at all, and you're still saying that. You're still supporting that. You're still saying that about him. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. All right, guys. So what we want to do now, someone I mentioned someone who is a black gay fan of Charlie Kirk posted a video going through the various accusations against him and so on. We're going to check out some of those. Let's check out the super chats. Let me see where I left off. Where did I leave off? Okay, I didn't quote that. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, wow, this is interesting. Many people accepting Christianity in Erica's video comment section. I wasn't even thinking about that. I hadn't checked, but that would be an interesting place. I'm going to check that out. That might actually be a good little video showing how people are reacting. Raymond has a great vid describing the modern left. Oh, modern left? Yeah, I'll check that out. Raymond's sharp, man. Raymond sharp. The way it is being dealt with in what happened at my work with people who said the blue sky stuff right in front of customers and the weak response to it makes it feel like a Christian living in a Muslim nation in a way. Yeah, so you will have companies that are more concerned than others. Great recent video by former leftist Nikos Sotirakopoulos on concrete steps to avoid political violence in the future so Kirk's death isn't totally in vain. Oh, I don't think anyone thinks his death is going to be in vain. It definitely will not be. Not long after first seeing Drew, I learned he portrayed himself as calm and reasonable. Pay attention to his face and mannerisms. The condescension is palpable. His MO is one of the nice ones. He is not. So he's basically acting like he's a nice, thoughtful, careful guy, and he's not. That seems accurate based on the one video I've seen of him. Christian USA, better to lead world than mine. D. Wood, as a diagnosed psychopath, is it weird to see those who are celebrating a violent... Oh, is it weird to see those who aren't psychopaths, are celebrating a violent, bloody attack? How are humans capable of that? I already kind of mentioned it. People have been conditioned to behave basically like psychopaths towards anyone outside their group. You can train people like that. You could take completely normal kids and raise them to behave like psychopaths. Drew is being insanely bad faith in his assessment of what Charlie was saying. It's obvious that he doesn't have any real moral or intellectual argument, just political disagreement. What a loser. That would be my assessment. What a loser. I mean, especially like, guy just gets shot, dies, and you're like, he's actually evil. Why? He promoted he promoted killing minorities. Really? Where? Right here. Well, why don't you play the rest of the clip, which shows that that's not what happened at all? Because that would destroy... What? Destroy you deceiving people? Or does it make more sense to you that those who are celebrating are irregularly over emotional? I've already shared my views there. White men need to get an A+ to be a doctor, but person of color women need A-. I know a white male who failed because he got A- and his classmates got the same grade and passed. Just the DEI stuff. DEI was not the solution. The solution is to do more accurate merit-based criteria for acceptance, e.g. testing critical thinking. Yeah, like I mentioned, like, again, how do you know? Because your goal for your school should be to get the best students who are going to do the best stuff and so on. But again, a standardized test score that could tell you that the student is super, super intelligent, and that's why he got a 1500. But it could just tell you his family had enough money to put him through classes to do that. So how do you get to the bottom of that? I don't know. But yeah, it seems like there should be a way to. It seems like there should be a better way than the way they've been doing things. By the way, David, I'm not trying to sound sarcastic or anything. I'm genuinely just curious about psychology, especially yours. So I think I've answered that. If not, let me know. Charlie Kirk was an honest and good man. End of story. That's what I've seen from everyone who actually knew him. All the people who are saying he's the worst person ever and he's terrible and he's basically a Nazi. And so those are people who didn't know him. And when you ask them why, they give stuff like, well, he said stone gays to death. Imaginary evil after a very real evil murdered him. Yeah. So he was killed. That's evil. That's real evil. And then we've got imaginary evil. Drew knows what he's doing. He's being dishonest. I don't know enough about him to know, but not looking good. I've heard noticer used on the right for people who notice racial patterns in crime, but not Jews specifically. Yeah, my point is, if someone's using a term and there are multiple ways to use that term, and it could even have a bad meaning, but you kind of have to show that that's how they're using it. Right? You can't just assume and then base your argument on your assumption of how they're using a term. And saying that Charlie's using it in this way is just kind of insane considering other things he says. Did you see the video of Bob Villain? Yeah, I saw that. On stage celebrating, yelling, if you talk this, you will get banged. I just made a short about it. P.S. Not in the way. I just made a short about it. P.S. Not in the way the men of Al-Zut banged Muhammad. Yeah, you will get banged. I just made a short. Yeah, but not in the way Muhammad got banged by the men of Al-Zut. Just to clarify. So yeah, guys, you can check that out on your Brother in Christ channel. Mary says, I'm deeply saddened to hear what happened to Charlie Kirk and people's reaction to his death. Since Charlie's death, I've been thinking more about my faith and not being afraid to profess my faith in Jesus Christ. I no longer want to be a coward. That will probably be the biggest impact he said he has. So you've got people who are going back to church and stuff, but will probably be people being less fearful, which that's the reaction you need, because when you kill someone over their views, you're trying to make other people scared. And when it doesn't work, then people become more bold. That's actually also the best way to avoid this happening over and over and over again. You don't want this to become a thing where everyone who goes on a campus to have debates gets shot. You don't want that to become a thing. Well, how do you ensure, or at least give it a good chance of not becoming a thing, to make sure it has the opposite impact from what was intended? Person who shot someone wants, hey, I want you all to be scared of saying this stuff from now on. Well, if people say it even more, the violent people hopefully realize violence is not going to get us what we want. Violence is going to get us the opposite of what we want. So not working. The idea that hiring is only about competency is a talking point. Daily Wire bars pro-choice staff, so Shapiro has no ground to oppose diversity hiring. Well, that's a different thing. You can say, I don't want to pay people who have we have a news agency that is here to put out certain ideas. We don't want to pay people who have the opposite ideas. That's not what we're talking about here. If you're a school, you're looking for who's going to make the best student. If you had a student who has views that you regard as terrible and you know about it, okay, that can be a factor too. We're talking about whether something like how much of a factor something like race or something like that. But dude, if you seriously, if you walk into the New York Times and you show you're the best writer in the world, but you're a Nazi or something like that, and hey, they should hire you just for your competency. Come on, dude. No one is saying competency is the only requirement for anything. Stop embarrassing yourself, man. Gosh. Drew's war against straw men rages on. Yeah, he is seriously going after some straw men that he made. Can you address the clip going around of Charlie saying to bail out Nancy Pelosi's husband's attacker? People claim he was for political violence. I have to say, every clip I've seen from him doesn't seem like he's for political violence, but I haven't seen that clip, so no, I'd have to check it out later. You talked about how locusts are the ones controlling everything. How do we stop all these locusts? They're ruining everything. Some men of Al-Zut making fun of locus of control. The demons are impatient. They are leaving the dark recesses of their host and exposing the evil within. Yeah, lots of people are spotting the evil. Fuentes and his fans call themselves noticers. Oh, okay. And Kirk obviously wasn't using it in that context. He's either deceptive or sloppy. So I think you're talking about Drew here. Either way, a hypocrite. Calls Kirk radical, but nothing to say about Fuentes. And they forget about this. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. No, you got to stone them. You got to stone them because he called out a woman for cherry picking. Today, my kids and I went to church. It was the first time for them, and they absolutely loved the vibe and community. Thank you for all you do. Seeing lots of these comments today, and it is awesome. God's word never returns void. May he continue to guide and strengthen us all. Genetically modified Dawa doesn't have the hikmah. That's true. He lacks the hikmah. Charlie using she there is all that bothers me. Well, I mean, think so. Yeah, because he referred to Lady Maga as she. And so there he sounds like he's just going with her preferred pronouns. So you can disagree with Charlie about that, but does he sound like someone who wants to stone Lady Maga to death? Nope, he's even going with the preferred pronouns. Thank you for the super sticker. Let's see, Triple J. Hi, David. Keep up the good work. I met you and Nabil twice a long, long time ago. Long, long time ago. I also used to be far more ignorant and dangerous. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, we got a lot of ignorant, dangerous people who need Jesus. Thanks for your discernment and research on this. I've seen a lot of misinformation and rhetoric about Charlie's views, but this is really helping sort through it. God bless you, brother. Oh, it's going to get better. Not thanks to me. Thanks to someone who already put a bunch of stuff together. You said, can take completely normal kids and raise them to be like psychopaths. Is it more spoiling, neglect, or abuse, or any and all, or chaotic? No, spoiling kids, that makes them like be more narcissistic. No, these other things, that's not what I was talking about with what's called dissocial psychopathy. Dissocial psychopathy is when psychopathic behaviors, the behaviors that are normally associated with psychopaths, is basically rewarded because of a particular group. It could be parents, like kids in Gaza with Palestinian Children's TV. Remember that show? Where they're basically taking young kids and training them to that murdering Jews and so on is the greatest thing they can do and so on. You can raise kids like that, and by the time they're 20 years old, you compare them with a 20-year-old psychopath, you would not see the difference. You would not see a difference there. The behavior is adaptive. So, and you could do this in other ways. It could be like, it could be something completely unrelated that doesn't actually happen. But take something like Tourette's syndrome. People just blurt out random things. Okay, suppose you took people who don't have Tourette's syndrome, but you rewarded them whenever they blurt out some random thing. Well, if that behavior is like valued as part of a group, pretty soon everyone's just going to be blurting out random things all the time. And so you can actually, some people are born a certain way and other people can be trained to act that way. How do we combat these lies that are being disseminated online about Charlie? It's all moving too fast. There's way too many to count, ranging from the stoning gaze example to his lack of empathy. We're about to see the lack of empathy example. But yeah, so people have been responding. It's going to come down to people. You just saw it. You just saw it with Stephen King, right? Stephen King said it. And a bunch of people corrected him. And he apologized. Now, not everyone's going to react that well. Not everyone's going to do the right thing after being exposed. But he did. And so the point there is exposing stuff does work. So when you see someone saying something, call them out on it. Hey, you just said this. Here's the actual clip. That's not what happened. And if they're evil, they're going to keep saying it. And then you change. Then it's look at this person continuing to say this even after he's been exposed. Look at this terrible behavior. Because if that person's not going to change, at least other people can see what kind of person you're dealing with. AD, I am gay, Christian, and I constantly pray for guidance. I study the Bible and try to exercise chastity. Why do some Christians act so hateful to me? I don't know. You're saying you're exercising chastity and so on. I don't think any serious Christian who's thinking appropriately would condemn you for having a desire that you didn't have control over. If you're born having a certain desire, you normally wouldn't say, "Oh, we condemn you for that." They might condemn you for if you act on it, what you do with that. But I mean, that's like, that could be like other things. Like I had an inclination to be violent. That's just how I was. Doesn't mean, but I'm still responsible for what I do with kind of. We're basically dealt some cards, and then it's what we do with them. Was amazing seeing Ben defend Groypers on Bill Maher. Was he? That'd be interesting. I got to check that out. Because it seems like it was an interesting discussion. These latest events have strengthened my faith. How unfortunate it takes such a horrific event to do that. God bless David and keep up the good work. Thank you. Yeah. You have a lot of negativity and so on, but I have to say overall, there's a lot of positive things coming out of this. And the people who are responding, like Drew and so on, they're being exposed, and other people are recognizing it and going, wow, this stuff is sick. This stuff is sick and evil. So it's actually, it's going, I'd say it's going as well as it possibly could go. As far as, you know, you don't have control over what happened. We have control over what we're doing now. As far as what we're doing now in, you know, after it's happened, it seems to be going, people really overwhelmingly seem to be reacting in a really awesome way. All right, guys. So another video. This one's long. Probably won't go through all of it, but let me see what this guy's name is. I forgot his name because I hadn't seen him before this. I had not seen him before this. What is his channel's name? Amir Odom. Amir Odom. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Amir Odom is, as far as I have been able to tell, a black gay man who considers himself center-right. So he's kind of center-right on the political spectrum. And he responded to a ton of the stuff that people have been saying about, Pol says, Odom, he is Brett Cooper's best friend. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how I haven't seen him before, because he's smart. He did a lot of, he put a lot of work into a video, and he had to do that really quickly because he posted this. He put all of this together in a very short amount of time. So let's go ahead and check out. Let's see. Here it is.
The purpose of this video is to serve as a tool to combat all the lies and misinformation that is commonly being spread right now about Charlie Kirk. And it's ironic because someone like Charlie Kirk is oftentimes called racist and homophobic, yet he's one of the main reasons this YouTube channel that you're watching right now even exists in the first place. He knew the young gay black Amir in 2018 and strongly advocated him to be more vocal online and spread his thoughts and to always seek the truth.
Did you catch that? This is Amir, and he's saying Charlie Kirk is a big part of why he has a channel now. Because Charlie Kirk, back in, what did he say, 2018 or 2019? He said something like 2018 or 2019, encouraged him, said, hey, you need to, you should actually be online, sharing your ideas and stuff like that. You should be making videos. And he took him up on that. Just very odd, because according to Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic, Charlie's a complete racist and white supremacist who wants a white nation of just white people. Weird. And wants to stone gays, like this guy, who's gay.
One day after the event, it was one day, the night of the first event I ever gone to in 2018, where I met Charlie Kirk for the first time, that I started being vocal online. And here we are today, and to this day, I still have one of the hats he even gave me. So I feel like this video is necessary because that's all Charlie ever did and pushed me to do and push everyone to do, is to seek out the truth. So I want to put the truth in his words in a very articulate manner. You can go through this video chapter by chapter, and it hits a lot of different marks and topics and things that are currently being said about Charlie Kirk. And me and Charlie, we've had our disagreements, and that's all they ever were. We're just disagreements, because you're allowed to disagree with somebody. You're allowed not to agree 100% with somebody that you're talking to or you're an associate with. And if someone sent you this video and you're new to me, you have no idea who I am, you have no idea, or you've just only heard the things about Charlie Kirk, I really do hope that throughout this video you are listening to understand rather than listening to respond. At least for this video, just listening to understand why so many people loved Charlie Kirk. They say he's racist, but why are so many black people upset that Charlie Kirk has passed? They say he's homophobic, but why are so many gay people upset that Charlie...
Yeah, and remember, we saw the clip the other day of Dave Rubin, who's friends with him. So Dave Rubin is gay, and he said, hey, I go to dinner with Charlie and his wife, and it's me and my husband. And I know at the end of the day, he doesn't agree on this, but he's not trying to stone Dave Rubin or Amir here. So anyway, really, really weird that something where there's so much evidence and so many people who know him and so many videos showing what he actually thinks, and people will still just, nope, he said stone gays, that's his actual position.
That Kirk passed. They say he's misogynistic. Well, why are so many women sad that Charlie Kirk has passed? They say he's transphobic. Why are there even trans people sad that Charlie Kirk has passed? They say he's a white nationalist. Well, why are so many black, Hispanics, Asians, the list goes on, anyone that's not white, very upset that Charlie Kirk has passed? If any of those terms were real about Charlie Kirk, then why on earth do all the same people that were commonly being told he hates loves and supports him? Just stop for 1 second, just 1 second. Stop listening to mainstream media. Stop listening to your friend groups. Stop listening to your echo chambers in social media, which even I myself in, and I try my best to, get away from echo chambers. Just stop being told how to think. And yeah, you're watching this video and I'm helping debunk the lies, but it's with his words and with full context, of which most people are not getting. Like, that's the one thing I learned from Charlie the most back in 2017, 2018, when I was really all my worldview and my thoughts are being challenged. Watching his content and even getting the chance to meet him was just, seeking the truth for myself. I listened to my friends. I listened to my favorite influence.
He's actually making an important point. He's saying that Charlie helped him with this. You can't just listen to whatever group you're in and not think critically about it. And so a lot of the people, keep in mind what we've been saying about how people can actually behave like psychopaths and so on. It's because your group is encouraging that sort of behavior. Well, that kind of tells you need to be careful about just going along with whatever your group is saying. Because it's very easy, guys. It's very easy to be in some group and then the group kind of moves along and gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and you're just kind of along for the ride, but you have to behave in a way the group approves of, or the group will cast you out. But that's the group you're in, so you don't want to be cast out, because then you'll have to be part of some other's group, and you've been trained to not like all those other groups, and so you just keep going along with it. And sometimes it's like really, really bad, evil behavior, and it's what your group is encouraging. And so, he was saying he had to deal with that with some of his peers telling him things, and he had to, he realized he needed to be careful here.
And creators, but I always defaulted to my own research and deep research, really understanding what they were saying and why. And it's hard. It destructs your worldview. It's challenging. It is, but it's needed. We have to stop and think for ourselves. Like, truly, again, I can't stress this enough. Everything that they say Charlie is, there's a group of people for each term that absolutely adore him and miss him. Why? That's what this video is about. This is exactly what Charlie always pushed me to do. And this is what I feel like is missing right now in this discourse about who this man is, especially from the left, the party of love, inclusivity, positivity, the list goes on. If that is the case, why are things like this being displayed? Why are things like this being promoted right now? Why are things like this being said? You don't see that type of behavior on the right. You don't. Hell, even the center, you don't. You just don't. Again.
That sign said, "Kill all Charlie Kirks," didn't it? That's crazy stuff. I was kind of just, I went through most of this, but I was just listening to it. So I wasn't actually watching what he's putting on the screen, but yeah, it's creepy stuff.
You're listening to a black gay man who used to be so far on the left, crying in the streets, and now I'm more center right, admittedly, because of my own research that I've done. People think I grew up so privileged. I've been homeless before. I've been sent to conversion therapy. There's so much to me and my story. So let's get any pre-notions about who I am and what I do, get those out. Okay, this video is for the person that I once was, who was lost in this realm, in this mainstream media, in this news cycle, not knowing what to believe, where to go. That's when I make content like this. Again, this party of love, inclusivity, positivity, it's everything but. There's this massive...
We're the party of love and inclusivity. But if you disagree with us, you have to die a horrible, bloody death, and we'll all cheer for it. Pretty darn creepy.
Wave, and we'll get into that in another video, but there's this massive wave of people leaving the left. You don't see it that much from the right, and there's a reason for that. You know, you think about George Floyd in 2020. George Floyd passed, and in response to George Floyd dying was a summer of riots, $2 billion in damage, and over like 30 people killed. We lose Charlie Kirk, and the only thing that's happening is vigils and people mourning, and then everybody on the left very happy and ecstatic that Charlie has passed. Not to say there weren't people making jokes about Floyd. That I'm not saying that wasn't the case, but at this caliber, insanity. You know, we were hearing things like, where was this energy when the Democrat died in June? Okay, you're right. Where was this energy? Ever since Charlie Kirk died, you have had thousands of videos of people celebrating his death. You have teachers, like college teachers, professors, deans losing their jobs because they are promoting and applauding assassins. Yet the right didn't have that energy when a Democrat died. One mainstream Republican, I believe, did or said some harsh things. But again, it wasn't to this caliber. It wasn't at this level of people making fun of someone's death, applauding someone's death, and just the thing that we're seeing right now doesn't reflect you or just the average person out there.
And I posted this as a separate clip on Twitter. I've already mentioned it, but the Konstantin Kisin said something very similar to what Amir just pointed out, that notice we're not seeing any like burning cities to the ground or rushing out in the streets. What is it? It's like you're seeing vigils, and you're seeing people recoiling from evil, and you're seeing people saying we've got a lot of work to do to fix some of the problems that we've got. And you see all these people, we're going to continue doing what Charlie would have done, and we're gonna dial it up and work even harder and so on. Nothing about, hey, let's go around destroying everything around us.
Not become the hate you claim to fight. Don't do it. Don't. As we go through this video, I want you to keep in mind some key things and just some things to have in the back of your head regarding who actively calls for and promotes political violence.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be. People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
If they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He went on the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
We're only one third through this video, and I'm done playing it because it just keeps going on. All these news outlets, left wing, CNN, MSNBC, all these news pundits literally calling for violence.
Yeah, that is a concern, because you have things like that where they're like, we need to be more aggressive and even, be punching people in the face, and who said that protests need to be peaceful and so on. You combine that with like the rhetoric that we already talked about in a different live stream, but of like Cenk Uygur and so on, where everyone he disagrees with is described as a Nazi or a neo-Nazi and a racist. He's a racist. That guy's a racist. This guy's evil. That guy's evil. He's a Nazi. That guy's a Nazi, and so on. So on the one hand, hey, our opponents are the most evil people in the world. If we don't stop them, it's going to be it's going to be millions of people dead because of these evil people and so on. And we're encouraging violence. Well, violence is a solution, and these are the people who disagree with us are really, really evil people. How is that not a recipe for what just happened?
Words have meaning. You're calling someone, even myself, every day, get called racist, homophobic, transphobic, bigot, Nazi. I've been called it all. Like
Someone called hold up. Someone called gay black guy a Nazi. Anyway. Weird times.
Destroy the meanings of these words and you just throw them out nonstop. You really do. And when politicians do things like this, it boils my blood. Not even just politicians, but mainstream pundits and political commentators. I never, like there are some fringe people out there, but on this level, this mainstream, on the right, calling for violence in this manner, no. You don't see it. You just don't. And the lies. There are so many out there that we'll go through, but we're going to focus on Charlie Kirk for this video. But here's an inkling. Here's just one example of a small lie that is like, it's...
David Kazashi said someone called him a homophobe. Yeah, that's funny. Look at this gay homophobe. This poor gay homophobe. Yeah, people are wild, man.
One card in a house of cards of lies that they have built, that they present as the mainstream media. It's hard to look at the news for a lot of people and think, well, they're all lying to me. But it's the little lies that just add up and add up and add up. That just like, when you step away from that and you look at it from a clear lens, you're like, oh shit, like what is really going on? The quote that I'm gonna pull up is from advocate.com, and the title is "Reactions to Far-Right Activist Charlie Kirk's Death Pour In Across the Political World." And they have a section here from GLAAD, G-L-A-A-D. It's a LGBTQ rights nonprofit organization. Where it gets crazy to me is right here. GLAAD stressed the extent to which Kirk and Turning Point USA promoted anti-LGBTQ plus narratives. The group highlighted Turning Point College's campus campaigns featuring speakers such as Riley Gaines, Chloe Cole, and Pastor Jensen Yu, who regularly spoke against transgender people.
Right. What does Riley Gaines say? I'm not familiar with these other people, but what does Riley Gaines say? Hey, if you transition, it doesn't mean you get to race against women. So that shows that Charlie Kirk is an extremist. Having Riley Gaines speak.
Guys, Chloe Cole's trans. Chloe Cole was a trans minor that got a double mastectomy as a minor and actively speaks out against transitioning minors so that they did not have to go through all the medical defects and mental turmoil that Chloe Cole is now going through because she was sent down the right to transition as a minor.
I was medicalized starting with puberty blockers and then testosterone about the age of 13.
Catch that? So this is the... Chloe here was put on hormones and had the double mastectomy and so on to transition, and then realized later this was a really bad idea and I didn't know what I was getting into, and now my life is changed forever based on pressure that was put on me when I was a teenager and didn't know enough about this. Stop doing this. Stop doing this to minors. That's apparently Chloe's position. And Charlie Kirk, because he will have people like Chloe at his events, this shows that he's a radical, evil person.
I went on to have a double mastectomy at 15.
You have GLAAD, this gay organization, calling Chloe Cole anti-trans people. They're literally... That's just one example, you guys. That's just one example. Again...
Don't transition minors. Why? A lot of them seem to regret it later on. So maybe tell them, hey, why don't you wait? Why don't you wait until you're an adult and make that decision? Not especially us making it for you when you're a child. Apparently that means you're some just bigot and extremist.
I show all this and I'm saying all this because this is what Charlie inspired me to do. It's what he told me to do. And I'm very honored and very thankful for the interactions that I've had with him in the past. Truth matters. Context matters. And I hope that you walk away from this video with at least a more open mind and understanding on why So many people genuinely loved the things he had to say and how he operated and moved through this realm. Regardless, in this video, I'm going to be recapping all the things that are currently being said and discussed about Charlie Kirk, starting off with gun rights.
You will never live in a society when you...
Okay, so now we're getting into the specific topics. One of the main things that came up against Charlie was him saying, in effect, that even though some people are going to be killed, it's actually worth it to be able to have guns and defend yourself. And so now we're getting into the specific details. By the way, people were asking, what can we do about all the things that are being said about Charlie? This right here, not my live stream. This video by Amir. I'll add a matter of fact. I'll go ahead and add it right now. I'll go ahead and add the link in the description box. But this video is a good video to share wherever people are saying Charlie's a horrible person. It would also be good to cut out sections and use them on a platform like X. In other words, wherever someone brings up the accusation, you can play cut out the part where Amir responds to that and share that, and then give the people a link to the full video and so on. But that would be a good idea there. All right, back up a little.
All the things that are currently being said and discussed about Charlie Kirk, starting off with gun rights.
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
And this is important because it's a clip that's kind of like a gotcha. Well, Charlie called for this. He asked for this. No, he did not. There's a strong difference between advocating for gun rights because you can protect yourself, your personal safety, and also from a tyrannical government, versus the right for mentally ill people to commit political assassinations. There's a major difference, and obviously there's some context that goes into that. He's not advocating for political assassins to take place. He's not advocating for crazy people to just go out there and be shooting people willy-nilly. No. He's acknowledging the fact that some shootings will happen, but we also can acknowledge that this assassination of Charlie Kirk is bigger than just a random shooting. That's not what this is. This is a planned and targeted attack. That's what that was. It was an attempt to silence this extremely growing faction of people that are going against mainstream media, speaking up for the truth and being loud about it. A movement that Charlie has been behind and is highly, highly responsible for. And all this did, honestly, was push forward his beliefs even more. Yes, unfortunately, bad people get a hold of guns and they do something horrible, but I'm not looking at that clip of Charlie Kirk and think, well, he clearly asked for it because, he's fine with citizens having guns. No, that's just not how that works. Empathy. Now.
Okay, so that was one issue, the gun issue. And for people who raise that as an issue, they're basically saying he deserved what he got because he said that having the right to bear arms and to protect yourself from a tyrannical government and so on. It's weird because I don't even believe that at this point. If the government said you can't have guns, you got a lot of people who'll never take us because we got our guns. I kind of don't buy that. Like if the army showed up at your house and said, no, you're handing over your guns, I think people are going to, yeah. So I kind of don't think that in the 1700s when the nation was formed, that kind of worked, right? The government was not that strong. If you had your weapons and so on, then you could rise up against the government if they cross some lines and so on. Now, I don't know. We've got a pretty darn big military and so on. So this idea, they'll never take me, I've got a gun. They could take that if they wanted. So you just hope that they respect your rights and don't try to mess with you. But as far as the other stuff, like having a weapon to defend yourself, he's basically saying human beings being able to protect themselves and their families against people who want to harm them is good. It's good that if someone breaks into my house and wants to harm me or my family, that I have a gun to protect myself and my family. That's good. But, well, some people will take a gun and misuse it and use it to just murder people. Well, that's true. And his idea is, yeah, and it's worth it. It's worth having the right to defend myself, even though some people are going to misuse that. That's pretty standard thinking on every other issue, right? Like we already talked about this the other day with cars. Keep in mind, if you got rid of cars, then there would be no more death by traffic accident. Wouldn't happen. And so if you say, well, we think it's worth it to be able to drive cars and get around faster, we think it's worth it, even though there are deaths that are inevitably going to happen. What's that mean? You're saying you like death, you like car deaths, you're a fan of people getting killed by drunk drivers and killed in... No, I'm just saying that's something that happens if you have tons of people who drive. This can be in all sorts of other situations too. So every year, a certain number of people die from the flu. Guess what? You could prevent all of those deaths from the flu. You could prevent all of them by making everyone live separately in plastic bubbles. So what's that mean? If you say, no, we don't want to live in plastic bubbles and we want to interact, and guess what? If we're going to die from the flu, then some of us are going to die from the flu, but you don't want to stop people from interacting and so on. So no, you can't make us, we don't want to live in plastic bubbles. Well, therefore you're saying it's good that people die from these. No, you're not saying any of that. You're just saying sometimes you have things that are good, and yeah, there are some negative consequences, but it's still the good outweighs the bad. And you've got tons of people saying, well, serves him right. He got killed by a gun. And now we're on the topic of empathy.
There's also a clip that's going around of Charlie Kirk talking about his opinions on the word empathy, and let's just hear what he has to say.
The new communication strategy is not to do what Bill Clinton used to do, where he would say, I feel your pain. Instead, it is to say, you're actually not in pain. So let's just, very short clip. Bill Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that it does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy I prefer more than empathy. That's a separate topic for a different time.
Important. At the end, he says, sympathy is what I prefer more than the word empathy, because he feels like empathy is a word that's being taken advantage of. And it is. It is an overblown word. It is a word that has been, if we're going to explain that quote and what he was referring to and talking about, this idea that's been growing that we have to be empathetic of everybody. And there comes a point where our empathy clouds our judgment. There comes a point where you're so empathetic. Instead of just having sympathy for somebody, you're so like, I feel your pain and I don't want you to have pain. Here, just take anything. Where that ruins society. You know, something that I often think about is this growing hatred, like infighting within the LGBTQ community, and I'm not kidding you guys. There's a growing faction of trans men who hate gay men because trans men are saying trans men are men. The only reason I'm gay, I'm sorry, all due respect to females out there, the only reason I'm gay is because I don't like women, like biological women. I don't like biological women.
Thought you were friends with Brett Cooper, man.
Men are biological women. Obviously, that's not going to work out. So you have some gay people like, you need to be empathetic towards these trans people and recognize them as a man that they are. We're different. And then people are like, well, that hurts their feelings. You're being transphobic. You're being a bigot. And what, like, it's being overused. It's being overused. Oh, well, we have to be empathetic towards Leah Thomas changing in the restroom and identifying as a female. Leah Thomas is walking into this women's locker room, slanging the elephant trunk all around, making all the women, biological women, feel uncomfortable. But people are using the term, oh, you have to be empathetic towards Leah. Leah identifies as a female. She's a female. That word is being used in a negative manner.
So he's pointing out that empathy is being used to basically to manipulate people. And what gets quoted from Charlie Kirk is, hey, not a fan of empathy. It's like a new age thing and so on. People say, you see, this man has no empathy and so on. He said, I preferred sympathy. So empathy is if you're in pain, I somehow feel your pain with you. I somehow feel your pain with you. Whereas sympathy is, okay, I see you're in pain. I feel bad for you, and I feel compassion for you, and I'll try to help you with that and so on. But I'm not actually feeling what you're going through, because you're a different person and in a different situation and so on. So I can tell you're in pain, and so I feel bad for you, and I feel compassion towards you, but I'm not feeling what you feel. And so you basically had Charlie Kirk saying, no, empathy that's what politicians are using to manipulate people and so on. And so not a fan and so on. But it's getting represented as just be completely merciless and heartless towards everyone. And then people going, aha, well, if he's in favor of being merciless and heartless towards everyone and never being concerned at all about other people's pain or misfortune, then by golly, why should we care about him getting shot? We should have no empathy, no sympathy, no compassion for him and so on. Yeah, that was him saying, I prefer sympathy and compassion, and empathy is being used by politicians to manipulate people.
That's what all that was talking about. He appreciates and values the word sympathy. So people are taking this quote out of context and say, well, I don't have empathy for Charlie because Charlie doesn't like empathy. Look deeper. Stop listening to friend groups. Stop listening to tweets. Stop listening to TikToks. Like literally, just think deeper about these things, you guys. Think deeper. Think critical. And the truth will be revealed. Gay people.
I'm a gay conservative, and I just want to ask you, what do you have to say for people like me who kind of feel like, I guess, it's kind of hard for gay conservatives because there's not a lot of us. So, like, what do you have to say to other gay people who need to realize, like, they do have a choice?
Yeah. Well, obviously, he's going to say, you need to be stoned to death, because that's what we hear from genetically modified skeptic.
Well, welcome to the conservative movement. I don't think you should introduce yourself just based on your sexual attractions.
No, I agree. I like,
because that's not who you are.
I like to be thought of as a person, and
for sure, you are a complete human being, and I'm sure you treat people well, and you're studying something. So I want to get away with this idea that you're gay anything. I just think that we have gone a long way in the negative direction in this country, where we act as if the most important part of your identity is what you do in the bedroom. It doesn't mean that much to me, but if you ask from a perspective as a Christian, I don't agree with that lifestyle, but politics is about addition and multiplication. I imagine you agree with a lot of what we talk about.
Absolutely.
Right? Strong borders, strong country, and for that, we welcome you into the conservative movement.
Thank you.
Isn't that interesting? So not one word about stoning this guy to death. Well, what was it? It's, hey, we agree on strong borders. We agree on strong economy. We agree on all these things. His principle seems to be, and this is why people have a problem with it. We've all been programmed. And this is something that used to come up with me and AP, because, I'm a Christian and he was an atheist, and you'd have atheists saying, you would occasionally have Christians seem to come more from atheists, like, what are you doing? You're working with the Christians. They're the guys we need to marginalize and so on. And we're like, what are you talking about? We're sitting here talking quite a bit about Islam and other things, and we're on the same page on a lot of these issues. We're on the same page. So why wouldn't we want to? Because you disagree on this thing. People have been programmed that if you disagree, you have to completely dissociate. If you disagree with someone, then they're your enemy. And that is an idea which, if it spreads, and it has already spread a lot, that destroys society, right? Because one of the things that made Western civilization work was we got to a point where, hey, we're not going to kill each other over our differences. And hey, we can get along in spite of our disagreements and so on. And now we're being told, no, you either agree with someone on everything or they're your perpetual enemy. And you see Charlie, it's, okay, so as a Christian, I would not agree with that issue. I would not agree with you on that issue, but I agree with you on this. So guess what? We can get along. It's not all about what we disagree on. There's what we agree on. That's kind of a division in society. You have the people who focus on the disagreements, and you have people who are focusing on the agreements. And Charlie was trying to focus on the agreements, and apparently that's not acceptable.
That's what they call homophobic. Oh, well, he said he doesn't agree with that lifestyle and he doesn't like gay marriage. That's fine. You don't have to think 100% with me on board, and just because you don't like what gay people do doesn't mean I'm gonna write you off as a bigot, homophobic person and then like boom, just not gonna talk to you for the rest of my life. No. Do you have any idea how gay Turning Point is? With all due respect.
That'd be a funny little clip by itself, just taken out of context. Do you have any idea how gay Turning Point is? He's basically saying there are a lot of gay conservatives in Turning Point.
You have any idea how many gay people is employed there? Any idea how many gay influencers have been on Turning Point's platform? Like, I can't comprehend this idea that he's this homophobic bigot just because he is very fond of his religion and he doesn't think two guys should be able to get married. There's a lot of people that think that. I personally think the government should just be out of marriage completely. But again, I'm not going to write somebody off just because they have one opinion. One opinion.
That's interesting. Say, he said, hey, I know Charlie disagrees with me on this, but guess what? I'm not going to write somebody off because they have a different opinion from mine, right? I mean, think this is weird, and this will come up more because they're going to get into the trans issue. But this weird idea that you have to agree with me or we're enemies, and not what he just said. Hey, you're not my enemy just because we disagree on this. Wild stuff, man. Weird times.
That may change. One opinion that we probably can reach a middle ground, like the government getting out of marriage, but very kind, very respectful, very opening to lots and lots of gay people out there. That was the Charlie I knew. Everybody knew. Like he was very nice and cool with lots of different gay people out there. It was not that big of a deal. Trans people.
And that's, think the clips we're seeing from Charlie, he's disagreeing with people and he'll say it. He'll say, hey, I disagree with you on this, but we agree on all these other things. And he's extremely respectful. He's extremely kind. He's not insulting them, trying to embarrass or humiliate them. And it's still, he's still the bad guy. What do you mean? It means you just can't have you're just not allowed to have any difference of view. If you're saying about a guy who disagrees with you, but he's being as polite and kind as possible, and you're saying he's pure evil, what do you mean? It's just anyone who disagrees with you, you're going to call pure evil, no matter what, no matter how nice they are, no matter how compassionate they are, no matter how much they're willing to work with you in spite of your differences. They're just pure evil because they disagree with you. That idea is pretty much more toxic than anything else in a society. And as we can see, it is very popular.
I just want to say I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy? Because I don't know what's true, what's not.
Tell me, are you comfortable telling me your story?
I've known that since like 3rd grade, and I'm currently 19, almost 20. I've known basically since then. I didn't start going by like a different name until 7th and 8th grade. I just don't know, like with the whole medical stuff, like what's true, what's not.
I'm gonna let this person finish, but Charlie gets called a transphobic bigot. The crowds get called transphobic bigots. There's a trans person that went through that crowd, is asking a question. No one's heckling them. No one's harassing them. No one's beating them. Charlie's sitting there being super respectful, hearing them out. That's all he ever did, was hear people out. Like he wasn't this radical person that was very mean and rude on campuses. No, he could get stern with people. He was matching energy, that's for sure. He matched energy. But this is who we're talking about as someone super transphobic.
It's helpful because I've heard so many different opinions.
First of all, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body. Mm-hmm. I instead encourage you to work on what's going on in your brain first. I think what you need first and foremost is just a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Just someone that is going to listen to what you've gone through, listen to what else is going on. My prayer for you, and again, very few people will say this, I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born.
Yeah.
I know that you might not feel that way, but I think that is something that you can achieve. I think that with the right team and the right people, you don't have to wage war on your body. You can learn to love your body.
That means he's horrible, transphobic person, as far as I can tell, according to his critics.
That's the people. That's who someone that people are calling transphobic bigot. Someone like that in an interaction like that. Respectful, calm, telling a person how they feel, wishing them the best, going about their day. There's another one.
You're part of the problem, I think, with the hatred on trans people. It's really not that deep. Like, if someone wants to dress up however they want, that's totally fine.
Okay, so
and I think
I'm
that's
not
where the
preventing
hatred
you. I'm
comes
not
from.
preventing you from dressing up like this. However,
Isn't that weird? Says, hey, you shouldn't prevent me from dressing how I want. So I'm not trying to prevent you from dressing. I'm not telling you how to dress, dude. Anyway.
let me ask you a question. I will
Go
flush
ahead,
this
go
out.
ahead.
So let's pretend you say you are a woman.
Yeah,
and
let's pretend.
I know you are a man, but I refuse to call you a woman.
Okay.
Who's the hateful one?
I would say you are. I mean, I wouldn't.
So
I
you're
wouldn't
going to
appreciate
force
it.
me and
I'm
shame
not
me?
forcing
No,
you
hold
to
on a
do
second.
anything, man.
You guys catching this? So the guy says, you're trying to control how I dress. I'm not trying to control how you dress. Suppose I disagree with you and I am not going to call you a woman. Who's the hateful one? You're the hateful one. And wait a minute. So you're trying to control me. I'm not trying to control you. I'm not making you do anything. There's nothing right now I'm trying to make you do. I'm not trying to force you into doing anything. I'm not controlling what you call yourself. I'm not controlling what pronouns you use. I'm not controlling how you dress. I'm not controlling what your name is. I'm not controlling any of that. You're trying to control me, but you think I would be evil if I'm trying to control you. I'm not trying to control you. You're trying to control me and demanding I behave in a certain way. I thought that was the rule, that you just don't do that and it makes you evil. So what's going on here? Interesting point.
I'm the hateful one.
It's really just like common courtesy.
It is never
that much
common
effort?
courtesy to lie. You do
Okay.
not become a thing just because you say it, you are the thing.
So-
And guess what? Nobody in the history of the species that was born XX or born XY and transitioned is able to change their chromosomes. Every
Yeah.
one of your cells is coded either XX or XY.
But
And
that's
it is an
where-
insult to women everywhere in this audience and across the country that's saying that you could just wear makeup and dress like a woman, undergo surgery, that you magically become a woman. And it is the abolition of women and is the abolition of reality.
That it can be hard to hear for some people. I will acknowledge that. But that's not transphobic. That's just the truth. There's a reason trans people exist. You have male and you have female. If you're transitioning from male to female, you're attempting to mimic the other thing, right? You're transitioning from male to female. Clearly, what that means is you were never that thing and you're never going to be that thing. I have trans friends. I love my trans friends. They acknowledge that they're what they were born as. They acknowledge their gender dysphoria. They acknowledge the mental health things that they go through. And that's all fine and dandy. And I call them what they want to be called, but you can't force that on somebody. The only reason all this attention has been on trans people the last few years is because of their involvement in transitioning minors and being involved in women's spaces.
This is an interesting point. So he's saying the only reason people care and are objecting is because instead of just being trans people and saying, hey, I'm a woman or I'm a man or something like that, is you started trying to do stuff with kids, and because you started saying we want to go in ladies' locker rooms and ladies' bathrooms and things like that and compete against girls and women in girls and women's sports and so on, that's why people started having an issue. It wasn't because, oh my goodness, this person was born a boy and then decided to be a girl. That's not the issue. If someone did that's been around a long time. Most people will be like, oh, okay, I ain't your boss. But wait, now you want to go into the girls' bathroom. Okay, that's a different story. That's a different story. You want to go in the girls' bathroom now. That's a different story. Or you want to race against a girl after you've gone through puberty as and become a man, and then you want to transition and race. And that's where people start having problems with it. And so does that mean you're an anti-trans bigot? According to a lot of people, yes, but I have to say I'm not seeing it.
That's it. The two most protected groups of people in the world, really, for the most part, that's kind of like off limits, women and children. Trans people in the United States the last few years have gone after women and children. There's other videos on my channel that we've talked about this in great lengths, but this is a thing that actually has happened. This is why people have become so vocal. There's a reason we see gay relations in the United States completely getting positive and getting better, and it starts plummeting when all this stuff started happening, when trans women in sports and transing children. If we're gonna look at it from a different perspective, kids, they can't drink, they can't vote, they can't smoke. They're kids. They're not grown enough. So this thought and idea that you can give a 14-year-old a double mastectomy, and before you say, oh, it doesn't happen, Chloe Cole, it does happen. Before you say it doesn't happen or that's wrong, these are things actively going on. I have all the books. I'm talking about book bans. I have all the books in my closet. I've read them all, the LGBTQ books that have been banned. It's literally corn giving instructions on how to please yourself. For 6th graders? Again, I wasn't going to be sitting here being told how to think. I bought the books. You can buy them. You can look in them. And you can decide for yourself if you really think that's appropriate for 5th and 6th graders. It's not. But on the topic of trans, Charlie Kirk really stood up for the women and children. And he did promote the detransitioners because their voice matters too. It does. Especially when you're dealing with minors. Not adults, minors. When you have this growing faction of trans people saying, hey, I was a trans minor and I made the wrong decision, at least wait till you're an adult. All of a sudden, that's being considered transphobic and bigoted. I thought we were supposed to listen to them. Notice whenever you're being invited to hear another side, it's always a term for them. Oh, they're transphobic, don't listen to them. They're TERFs, they're anti-trans people, they're self-hating gays, self-hating blacks. What if they're just people with opinions? What about that? Racism.
Yeah, what Amir just said, that's basically my view. Like, I'm not your boss. If you're a biological male and you want to wear a dress or whatever, I'm not your boss. If you ask my view, you can ask my view. I don't know why you'd care what my view is, but different category once you start messing around with women or kids. Trying to bully women as far as sports, or trying to spread certain ideas to kids and stuff. All of a sudden, that becomes a problem. And he's pointing out that's the real source of any sort of hostility or something towards your group. So basically on the trans issue. So you can have people who actually believe that you can be in the wrong body, right? So that they believe that, hey, if you feel like you're in the wrong body, then you are just in the wrong body, and we need to make your body line up with how you feel, even though how you feel might change 5 years later. But we're just going to change your body to line up with how you feel. So you have people who actually believe it's like you're actually in the wrong body, and we need to respond to that. Then you have other people who view it as like a mental problem. Like you have a mental defect, right? Body dysmorphia. Well, notice if you think someone has a mental defect, you don't normally hate someone for having a mental defect, if that's how you regard it. You don't normally, oh, I hate you because let's say you're anorexic. Let's say you're anorexic. You think you're fat and you're not, and you're like 60 pounds and you're just a skeleton with some skin on you. And you're saying, I'm too fat, I'm too fat, I'm too fat. You don't normally, oh, I hate you for thinking that there's, your body is not what it is. It's like you don't normally hate people for something that you think is wrong with them. Well, that would be true even if you think that that trans people have a mental problem. That's not something you should hate someone for. Even if you shouldn't hate someone for that sort of thing. But if someone starts saying, hey, I want to go in the girls' locker room and stuff, and it's like, I'm not sure about that, then you're going to start getting people who want to stand up for women and children and so on. Or if you're like, hey, I'm this and I want to go, I want a room full of kids to read this new book about masturbation okay, now we really, really, really don't trust you. But that's the source of a lot of hostility. But it's weird. What's weirdest to me is this obsession with people forcing people to agree with you. Like, it's not just you believe you're a woman. It's you demand that I say it and I agree with you. That's the weird part. Like, why are you obsessed with making everyone agree with you? Like, let me put it differently. So suppose someone is anorexic, right? They somehow look in a mirror and they see a fat person, even though they're extremely skinny and not healthy because of how skinny they are. They look in the mirror and think, I'm too fat. Again, there's no reason you should be hostile towards a person for that. But suppose they said, oh, and you have to agree with me that I'm too fat. You have to say it. Say it. Say I'm too fat. You say, well, I don't think you're too fat. I think you're way too skinny and you're like destroying yourself here. Say, no, say I'm too fat. I don't think you're too fat. I don't believe that. I don't want to say it because I don't believe it. No, say it anyway. Say I'm too fat. That's just weird. That's weird. Or like Michael Jackson. Remember Michael Jackson? Remember Michael Jackson kept getting nose jobs throughout his life. So he had a wider nose when he was young, and then before like Thriller came out, he got a nose job, and he looked different. And you didn't find out until later when people who knew him explained it. They said his dad, the entire time they were when he was a kid, his dad always called him Big Nose. Hey, Big Nose, Big Nose, Big Nose, Big Nose. His dad called him Big Nose as an insult. And so he just grew up wired to think that his nose is too big. And so first he got it narrowed a little bit and stuff. But then as he continued, he kept getting it smaller and smaller until it was like a weird little point. And I've heard, I don't know, it's confirmed that by the end he didn't have any nose. He had like a prosthetic nose. I don't know if that's true, but I know his nose kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it was this weird little point on his face. Now, if you were talking to Michael, you wouldn't want to be hostile towards him for that, right? Like, hey, you were like traumatized as a kid by this name that your dad was constantly calling you and stuff. And so every time you looked in the mirror, you saw your nose is too big and you wanted to keep changing it. Imagine he was like, you're talking to him and he's like, say my nose is too big. It's like he's got this little point left on his. No, I don't want to say your nose is too big. Say he's got to say it. You got to say it. You're hurting my feelings. You're basically genociding me if you don't say my nose is too big. It's like, what, why are you obsessed with me saying this? Anyway, those are kind of the issues. One, once your position is used to bully women or mess with kids, or you're trying to force other people who don't agree with you to say what you're telling them to say, that's when you get the problems. So I just drop those issues. And guess what? People wouldn't have nearly as big a problem with you anymore. Anyway, I've got the issue of racism now.
Here in the wealthiest country ever,
yes,
at an amazing university with all the opportunity imaginable in front of you. And all you want to do is look backwards at everything that prevented you when you are a glaring example that there is no systemic racism and you can actually achieve your wildest dreams.
Whoa, I never said that. Hey, I'm not the only black person who exists out there. There's so many people who this culture is affecting to this day.
Do you know black Americans are the richest black people on earth?
What statistic
Africa.
is that? Okay, I need you to pull that up like right
Fine,
now.
you can. Black Americans per capita on average.
Can you pull that up?
I'm hosting an event right now. I don't know what to tell you, but anyone can fact check me on this. So you cannot find a black majority country or any country where black people have significant representation where they are as wealthy, because even the poorest people in America are in the top 5%, the top 2% of wealth around the world. And so my whole belief is stop acting like you're a victim and start making better choices.
That's not racism. I am my ancestors' dream. I'm in the deep South, Tennessee, I don't know, 40, 60 feet, probably above tons of my ancestors that were slaves hundreds of years ago, living their dream right now. I am my grandfather's dream, who could not speak openly like this, who actually dealt with the Jim Crow laws, who actually dealt with the real racism. I'm afforded every opportunity any white person is in this country right now. Are there economical differences? For sure. Are there some systemic things that we can get into? For sure. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't have it better than every other generation of black people that have come before me in this nation. I have it better. We all have it better. We genuinely do. I don't understand how people can sit here and call Charlie Kirk a racist when even back in 2018, 1920, hosted events like the Young Black Leadership Summit where he would...
Catch that? It's Charlie Kirk hosting the Young Black Leadership Summit. That's weird because he's apparently a white supremacist, according to what I've been hearing. Anyway, weird stuff.
In this country right now. Are there economical differences? For sure. Are there some systemic things that we can get into? For sure. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't have it better than every other generation of black people that have come before me in this nation. I have it better. We all have it better. We genuinely do. I don't understand how people can sit here and call Charlie Kirk a racist when even back in 2018, 1920, hosted events like the Young Black Leadership Summit where he would take 200 to 300 young black people all across the United States, invite them to DC, invite them to meet the president, invite them to the White House, invite them on this journey in this conference to learn more about the black history in this nation from other black people, to hear about stories that aren't taught in schools, to see a different side of our past as victors and not victims. You know, being a part of founding organizations like Blexit, where they are active in a ton of different states, in a ton of low-income black neighborhoods, giving young black kids mentors, school supplies, rides, field trips, events, block parties, that man. But people just want to say, oh, he was racist because he said this one thing. That's not how this works. You're allowed...
Racist because he said, stop thinking of yourself as a victim. It's not good for you.
Have an opinion, you're allowed to say things, and also you as a person watching this video, you're allowed to fact check everything for yourself. You're allowed to think deeper and think critical about the things that are being said. That's okay for you to do. And the things Charlie Kirk often talked about blew my mind, especially on the topic of race. Because as someone, again, who was in the streets marching with BLM, crying my eyes out because of the pain that I felt being a black man in America and a gay man, double marginalized, double victimized, and going to these events and meeting these people and talking to these people and realizing, wow, actually, I don't have it that bad. You could have told me 10,000 black people were being shot and killed by the police, unarmed. And most years, more people are being struck by lightning than black unarmed men are being shot by the cops. That man, Charlie Kirk, was not a racist man. Affirmative action.
And that's true according to everyone who actually knew him. So it's just weird. Just weird when you have someone and I mean, think you've got black people, gay people, black gay people, and they actually know him and they're like, this guy's not a racist and he's not a homophobe and he's not anything. He disagrees with us on some stuff, but that's actually fine. He's still willing for everyone to work together and so on. When you got everyone who doesn't know someone and they're saying one thing and all the people who know him are saying the opposite, you might want to listen to the people who actually know him. Earlier, we were talking about internal versus external locus of control. Manipulators want you to have an external locus of control. So locus of control is what's controlling your situation in life. What's in control? Is it external to you? So other things out there like Jews or something like that, they're in control? Or are you primarily in control? Now keep in mind, reality includes both. There are things that are beyond your control that affect you, and you obviously get to make decisions and so on in your life. And so it's where's the primary? What's primarily responsible for your situation in life? And manipulators want you, you're way better off if you have an internal locus of control. In other words, if you believe that you're responsible, you are primarily responsible for your relationships, for your economic status, for your happiness and so on, you're way, way, way better off if you have an internal locus of control. Because when you don't like something, okay, I can change it because I'm the one who's responsible. I'm the one who's deciding these sort of things. If I don't like the way something is, I can change it. I have that ability. If you believe that what is controlling you is outside of your control, you kind of feel helpless. You feel helpless about it. Now, manipulators want you to have an external locus of control. If it's a man who's manipulating a woman, his girlfriend or something like that, he manipulates her, then he wants her to believe that however things are going for her, it's based on him. It's based on him because that keeps her obsessed with pleasing him and doing whatever he wants and so on. Politicians, including entire parties, want you to have an external locus of control. What political parties and so on will do is, hey, you know how stuff sucks for you? It's not your fault. It's the system. The system is rigged against you. The system is rigged against you. But guess what? You can't change the system. You can't change the system. You're powerless against the system. The system is too big. Who can change the system? Well, politicians. And therefore, you can't change it. You're helpless. You're completely helpless. All you can do is vote for us. And we're the ones who will deal with this for you. We're the ones who will fix this. So you, poor individual, there's nothing you can do except vote for us, and that's the only hope you have of changing because everything's beyond your control. The only thing you can do to change anything is vote for us, and we'll deal with it for you. Now, what's creepiest there is if the popularity of your political party is based on you being the solution to people's problems, them viewing you as the solution to their problems, is it actually in your best interest as a politician to solve those problems? Why are they voting for you? Because you're the one who will fix all the problems that they are powerless to solve for themselves. Do you, as a politician, actually want to solve those problems? Why would they vote for you after that? If you solve the problems, why are they going to vote for you next time? No. What you do is you keep them believing that you're fighting against it, but it's going to take a long time and they just need to keep voting for you every election and so on because you'll eventually solve the problems and so on. And that's how they keep you completely under control. Now, we just saw we saw Charlie talk about this in the context of Jews and believing Jews are in control of everything and Jews are behind everything and so on. That's not good for you to think like that. If you got problems in life, don't blame Jews. Don't blame anyone else. All you have to do, you should be focusing on what can you do? What can you do to change things? That's what you should be focused on. Here you have a young black student, and he's talking about systemic racism. Guess what? There are racists, and there are problems with the criminal justice system, all kinds of things. There are issues that need to be improved over time. Guess what? They do improve over time, right? They do improve over time. We do fix them over time. I'll just say, and this isn't just a black and white thing. This could be an economic thing. Let me just say, if a senator's son, or the president's son, because you had Hunter Biden, but if a senator's son or president's son gets caught with crack, that is very different from if they catch some random poor person with crack. And I'm just saying this because I've been locked up. My brother's been locked up. We've been through the system, and we were basically what's considered a trailer park trash, right? We're from the trailer park in West Virginia, from a West Virginia trailer park. They treat you differently if you're poor from the West Virginia trailer park and you go to court, you have a public defender instead of like a fancy lawyer and stuff. They do. It's a fact. They treat you differently, and there's going to be a seriously different outcome. If you come from a wealthy family, not only do you get a better lawyer and stuff, they just treat you like there's more hope for you. Like, oh, we need to help you get back on track because you made a mistake. We'll help you get back on track. If you're in a different category to them, we need to lock you up to keep you away from society because you're bad. And so you do have all sorts of issues that are messed up, that are problems with the system. With all of that said, however, with all of that said, you are massively better off if you do not view yourself as a victim. So again, there, the example was a young black college student. Guess what, guys? They'll do the same thing with white people. Hey, everyone's turning against white people. Everyone's mad at white people. Everyone's hating white people. Well, there are lots of people who hate white people and are mad at white people and are saying mean things about white people and so on. Be careful of viewing yourself as the victim who relies on politicians and so on to get you out of that situation or to fix that situation for you. Because once you have absorbed that idea, I am a victim, everyone is against me, and the only thing I can do is vote for the right politician who's going to come and fix these things, they've got you. They own you after that. Because it's hard to break away from that. It's really hard to break away from that. But again, guys, whatever. So again, reality-wise, some people are in rough situations due to circumstances that are outside their control. Guess what? Even in that scenario, even in a scenario where you've just been crushed by life. So you grow up and your mom's a drug addict and stuff. My mom was a drug addict. She died of an overdose and so on. But bad situations that you don't have control over and so on, you are still massively better off if you do not view yourself as a victim of things beyond your control. You are massively better off. You say, you know what? That's that person. That's that person. That's that person. That's all beyond my control. But what I do and how I react to things and how I live and how hard I work, that is all under my control. So how things are going to turn out for me, that is under my control. And if there's something in the system that's going against me, you know what? So what? I will overcome that. I will crush that. I dare you to get in my way, because I will crush every obstacle that comes in my way, and I will succeed at what I want to do. You're way better off at that. So be careful, guys. Be careful of people who are telling you you're a poor, helpless victim who depends on someone outside of you. That's a manipulator telling you that.
See a black person in a position, or minority or whatever, the assumption is that that person is not qualified, when literally, and you have to be qualified in order to even to get in that position.
Well, so let's take college admissions. So this is a great example. At Harvard, we learned, because of new revealed documents, that black students were having test scores that were 30 to 35% lower than their white counterparts.
Okay.
And so therefore, if you saw a black kid at Harvard, it's a fact that they were not having the same test standards as their white counterparts.
Still doesn't matter. The kid.
We'll go ahead and we'll let this finish, because this is on this is on the DEI stuff. There's more. I've got a link to the full video. He continues and covers a couple of extra topics, but we've been going for a while, so we'll wrap up at this point, and then I'll take the super chats and stuff. But let's see what he's got here.
Has to get through. He's got to get through the classes, do the tests, do all the research.
Well, they actually drop out at a greater rate too. But the point being is, just the idea that they were there, number one, took a spot from an otherwise qualified individual that might be white, and they were not there on the same merits. So what we want is the same rules for everybody.
You're making the assumption that they're not qualified in order to get in. In order to even get there,
it's not the
considered.
assumption. It's the data. So, for example, it's literally at Harvard, you had kids with perfect SAT scores, perfect ACT scores that were white.
So that makes a degree from Harvard worthless then.
Well, you're exactly right. Yeah, actually, Harvard's degree is becoming more worthless because it's more race-based than merit-based. You're exactly right.
Affirmative action in a nutshell. Oh, well, Charlie Kirk was against affirmative action. That means he's racist. Oh, there's tons of black people against affirmative action as well. I don't need you to lower my test scores because that's even more racist. I don't need you to lower my test scores to give me a chance to get into college. Don't you want to feel like you earned your spot? Don't you want to feel like you worked hard for something? Why would you want to get a handout? Why would you want to just be given, hey, you black, we're going to enter you into Harvard because you got a D. Even though these white people are getting A's, I know you're not capable of getting an A, and we need more blacks at our college. So we're just going to go ahead and accept you in even though you have D's. Do you not find that disrespectful?
He said D's.
If you're a black...
If AP was here, he'd be making D's nuts jokes, because that's his childish mind.
Person watching this, and you're studying super hard, and you get into Harvard, don't you want to feel like you got into Harvard because of all the work you've been putting in, and not just the color of your skin? That's why a lot of people are against affirmative action. They don't want these handouts. They don't like That this is the thing. You're making the assumption. No, it's actually real stuff that has been going on. Real stuff, you guys. That is okay to call out. It is. So before people go shout from the rooftops, oh my gosh, this is horrible, this is racist. It's not. It's actually racist in reverse. I think some of these affirmative action things being put in place is actually racist. Critical race theory.
Okay, y'all can.
All right, so now he's getting on to critical race theory. Again, I have the link to the full video in the description box, but we've been going for a while. Again, if you're here late, that video is a good video to share. Multiple people asking, what can we do? Because people are just continuing to completely misrepresent Charlie and what he believed and things he said and so on. That video there is a good video to share. It's a little on the long side. If you want, you can cut some little pieces out for individual videos, but I would encourage people to just learn the point, and then when someone says something that's false, if someone has a legitimate criticism, keep in mind, Charlie's not perfect. So there are always, of any human being, there are going to be legitimate criticisms and so on. But yeah, if someone's saying something false, then correct them. Let's see. I think I already quoted this one. These latest events have strengthened my faith. How unfortunate it takes such a horrific event to do that. God bless David and keep up the good work. Yeah, we check that out. Do you think the far left or Islam is a bigger threat to Christianity? I don't think that either one of them is an actual threat to Christianity by themselves. It has to be combined with kind of weak Christianity, right? Like, Islam is so incredibly weak. You could shatter it. I mean, you could shatter it. It's so weak and pathetic. We just don't. Who's that on? That's on us. The far left, you've seen it. They don't have a lot of relevant arguments to make, and when they actually debate their views, keep in mind, I'm not talking about left versus right, just politically and so on. You have plenty of sane people on the left. You have plenty of sane people on the right. So when we're talking about the far left, they have really, really weird ideas. Those ideas do not stand up to scrutiny well. That's why they keep having to get violent. Islam and these far left ideas, they only spread rapidly in the West if you do not have a strong Christian population to oppose them. So the real threat is a weak Christianity. And that's why you want a strong Christianity to oppose these things. And that's what Charlie was focused on doing. And that's why he got shot. Wouldn't it also be because certain people position themselves as the good guy in a way that would make people who don't agree with them evil? I'm not sure exactly what this is a reference to, but yeah, that is a thing. So I'm the good guy, and obviously if I'm the good guy and you disagree with me, then you're the bad guy there. Can you review Randall Rouser's videos on Kirk? Probably not. Randall Rouser is just terrible. I mean terrible. The idea, I would almost rather read the Quran for fun than watch a Randall Rouser video. That should tell you something. Love Spencer Clavin, Douglas Murray, and Dave Rubin's work and do not agree with their sexual practices. What do you know? We can disagree and not burn with hate. That's true. In fact, I mean, that's probably the biggest point to absorb is we do not have to agree on everything in order to get along and work together for something. D. Wood, would you say the radical left is similar to Islam in some ways? The biggest parallel is that they're destructive forces in a society. Right? In other words, they're trying to tear it down. They want to tear down so they can build something else that they want to replace it. That's the biggest parallel, and that's why they work together. That's why the far left and Islam work together. It's because they're both hell-bent on destroying what's there to replace it with something else that they want. Michael Knowles made this point when the three-pronged hate groups of Islamist leftist groypers hate a person. Good evidence that a person is pretty great. Yeah, I have to. That's actually a good sign, right? Like when you see someone and you see, here's all the people in groups who are attacking that person or that idea, and it's communists, socialists, jihadis, and groypers. It's like that's a pretty good sign that. It's a pretty good sign that whatever they're attacking is actually good. 2 Muslim furries tried to blow up a news car. Wait, what? 2 Muslim furries? What? Oh, I don't want to look it up now. I'll look it up afterwards. But yeah, that sounds pretty weird. David, I saw a video of a black woman saying to not stop at Charlie and go after his grandmother, go after the people that raised him, and so you have all sorts of creepy people. Like the clip we watched from that woman who sounds like a witch. It's, hey, we're just getting started. Really stupid. These people are only able to hold their weird views because they live in a society that won't kill them for those weird views, and they're the ones advocating killing people over their views. They do not realize what they're doing. It's like teenagers who run around going, anarchy, man, anarchy. You kids would not make it in an actual anarchy. You would be crushed. You would be destroyed. You are not the strong ones who would survive in an anarchy. You're only able to go around anarchy, cool man, anarchy, because you live in a society that protects you while you say stupid, idiotic things. And same with the others. He's done a reaction video of Fuentes on the black community. Yep, I'm pretty sure he agreed with Fuentes, but Charlie is a saint in comparison to cookie oven jokes. Yeah, you got the cookie oven jokes. Do they not see how weird and evil their party is? They are obsessed with death and mutilation. That is weird. Not good things to be obsessed with. The 1927 Art of the Treachery of Images that says in French, this is not a pipe. Don't separate a thing from its objective meaning. That's a good idea. This is not a pipe. GMS, so that's genetically modified skeptic, is an inbred product. That's why his generation got mod. Thomas Sowell wisely said regarding social issues that there are no solutions, only trade-offs. The trade-off of gun ownership is that the benefits outweigh the costs. Same for medicines, cars, etc. Yep. Thomas Sowell is also the one who said, and he said this back in either the 80s or the 90s, but he said, we've spent the past 30 years replacing what works with what sounds good. And again, he said that way back in the 80s or 90s. But now we've had several more decades of the same thing. Replacing what works with what sounds good. You got some professor on a college campus or even some student on a college campus, and this sounds good in my head. Let's sound good in my head. Therefore, this is the way things are. And it doesn't actually work in real life. You had things that worked in real life and say, no, get rid of those things. Let's replace them with these other things that don't work, but they sound good in our heads. Some stuff needs to stay in people's heads and not actually be put into the real world. It surprises me that people don't bring up psychopathy. There are way more psychopaths than people think. So basing your much of your ethics off of empathy, then blaming others who lack it seems odd. Mm-hmm. Off topic, tell me if I should ask another time. Do you have favorite books or resources to help one get the gospel right and other beliefs for Christianity? Yeah, I do have some. I do have some favorite books and so on. Actually, putting together a list. This will be up. When are we doing this? Logos asked me. So Logos, that's the Bible. The Bible app and so on, they asked me to put together a list for like bundle of my favorite books on various topics and stuff like that, so that people who want like my favorite reading list of my favorite books and stuff, they'll be able to get those through Logos, and it'll just be, here's all the stuff I recommended and stuff. But yeah, I would say as far as getting the gospel right, I would say read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Read the book of Acts, where you'll see the apostles going out and preaching the gospel. And you go to the letters of Paul, at least read the book of Romans. At least read the book of Romans. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, and Romans. Go with those. It's good to keep reading and so on. But I would say learn those books well, and then worry about other books to read. Usually I'm asleep at stream time, not tonight. Thanks for your work, D. Wood. Been reading the book of Hosea lately. Feels apropos for our wacky society. Yeah. I've actually wanted to make a video going through that and pointing out some of the interesting things, but haven't got around to it yet. David, did you get your doctorate in philosophy before or after jail? You were already interested in religion, so why did you choose philosophy instead of religion? Yeah, so I'll give everyone the timeline. So I got locked up when I was 18, then got out, then got locked back up when I was 19, got sentenced to 10 years in prison. This was the old law. Under the old law, it's not this way anymore. Under the old law, for every 30 days you didn't get in trouble, they'd give you 30 days of what's called good time, meaning they're taking 30 days off your sentence. And as long as you continue not getting in trouble, you keep building that up. They could take that away from you anytime if you get in trouble, right? In other words, if you're 3 years into a sentence, you also have 3 years of good time. So that's 6 years off your sentence. But if you get into a fight or something like that, they can take away your good time. They can take away your 3 years of good time, and then you have to serve 3 years. So it was a pretty big incentive to behave. They actually screwed that up. They took away most of the good time, which so there's not nearly as much incentive now to be good. But so I had a 10-year sentence, so I served a little over 5 years. So got locked back up, got sentenced when I was 19, so got out when I was 24. Headed to college. That's where I met Nabil and so on. I was already interested in philosophy because I'd read several of the dialogues of Plato, and I'd read some stuff by Epictetus. He was a Stoic, and Marcus Aurelius. I didn't like Marcus Aurelius. They were both Stoics. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus were, I think, the two last of the great Stoics. I loved Epictetus, didn't like Marcus Aurelius and so on. But anyway, I was reading philosophy back then, and I was a biology major in college because I was interested in science. Was required to take a philosophy course just as a gen ed, but just realized that I'm interested in philosophy. So I was just way more interested in philosophy than lots of other topics. It's like foundational, right? It's like foundational, like clear thinking and so on, understanding how arguments work, figuring out how you get to the truth and so on about various things. And so I knew I wanted to do something in apologetics, but philosophy is a pretty good foundation for apologetics. I know Charlie's death didn't affect you with your sociopathy, but is there any part that bothered you? If not, what would it take to bother you? I don't even know if you mean bother me emotionally, I'm not aware of anything that would bother me like that. I can know that something's wrong and want to do stuff about it and fix it, but yeah, if you mean bother me emotionally, that doesn't bother me. Things can tick me off and make me enraged, but there's no bad feeling. There's no, oh, this bad thing happened to this person and this is making me feel super sad or something like that. There's nothing like that. Things can tick me off. But yeah, so I don't, if you're using bothered like I think you're using bothered, then I lack that part of my brain. Left equals progress, right equals personal accountability. You know, it's weird. As far as like, I'm not talking about conservatives versus progressives. I'm talking about conservative as far as a force, right? Don't think about conservatives like conservative politicians or something like that. And don't think of progressives as the progressives. I'm talking about conservative as like a force for conserving what works in society. And progressive, don't think of that as progressives. Think of that as a force for progress, a force for progress. You want both of those forces in society. You want both of them. You want to conserve things that you got right and things that work well, and areas where there are problems and things aren't working, you want to make progress in those areas. So you want both those forces working together and sort of just making society better. You're conserving the things that work well. You're making progress in areas where things aren't working so well. You want both those forces. But if they become like detached, and start going after different things, that's when things start breaking down. According to Muslim source, Mo was born on the year of the elephant. Thus, his love of the elephant trunks from the Al-Zut. Yeah, it's funny because Amir there, he referred to trans athletes walking into the ladies' locker room with elephant trunks swinging. You think people in USA will wake up or more violence? I think both. I think you'll get more violence, and I think you'll get people waking up. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. A simple saying back then, but now words are violent. Yes, and since words are violent, then when people are speaking words that you don't like, violence is the appropriate response. That's why things are bad right now. People have been trained out of what we... Well, if you're old, if you're young, you probably never even heard that. What we heard when we were growing up back in the 80s and 90s and so on, we heard that. Sticks and stones. Hey, don't let words hurt you, man. Don't let words hurt you. Now, if you say something that hurts my feelings, it's literal violence against me and I'm justified in killing you. Rough times. But hopefully people are catching on. That's one of the good things is... as far as America, you saw Amir talking about, hey, you can point out something wrong in society. I cannot ignore the fact that I've had it better than all of my ancestors. What's that mean? It means that situations are improving. And guess what? Even if you're looking around and seeing all sorts of problems in society around you and all kinds of things going wrong, that is the good feature of the system as we have it, is when something goes wrong, when there are problems, we can actually work to fix them. There are places in the world that are incredibly hard to make any progress because there are people who are glued, absolutely glued to some defective way of doing things, and they don't allow anything to change. So take Afghanistan, right? Once you go full Sharia compliant, it is very hard to break away from that sort of thing. And there won't be any progress. There won't be progress in Afghanistan until they find a way to start breaking away from that. But notice everything you hear coming out of Afghanistan is just how things are getting worse. Why are things getting worse? Well, because they're trying to go back to trying to make everything basically what you'd find in 7th century Arabia. And so that's why Islam is called a retrograde force. It's the creator. The message of Islam really is the creator of the universe is absolutely obsessed with everyone walking, talking, living, breathing, thinking, eating, even going to the bathroom like a 7th century Arab. It's what the creator of the universe is obsessed with. And so it's a retrograde force. Christianity is a positive force in society. Wants to preserve the good and fix things that are wrong. And so on. So anyway, that's why you see people from the Muslim world constantly wanting to move to Western nations. You just got to show them the real source of why things didn't work in the places they came from. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. Again, definitely want to share Amir's video wherever you can. Finish watching it because he probably another 20, 25 minutes that we didn't cover. So good video, put a lot of thought into it, and he got it out really quickly after the attack. So he basically did not like that people were blasting Charlie, and he sat down and said, I'm gonna respond to all this stuff. So hats off to him. All right, not sure when AP is gonna be back. In other words, I'm trying. He told me, but I forget. Anyway, again, I don't want to give away any information about his whereabouts and so on. But should have a good video up for everyone tomorrow. Finally want to get a video out on Zohran Mamdani, the candidate who's most likely going to be the next mayor of New York. Guy's got some dangerous, dangerous, dangerous ideas. And we're about to find out how dangerous. All right, guys, catch you next time.